dissertation, Rebranding Islam. It's about the story of A'agim. Yeah, you know, because Jim Hoesterey did field work about A'agim, so some people called him Jim. Yeah, so he has the popular name from some people. Also, Jim's once had Zoom meeting also with a graduate school student, I think 2 years ago, and we have familiar with him, and he will talk about the Islam and sustainable development in Indonesia, perils and possibilities. Yeah, and then Professor Ismail Latif, he is a theologian and philosopher actually from Istanbul University. Yeah, I think very long biography here, and we also familiar with Dr. Patrick from, he is German, he's Germany, and also have been living in Indonesia for a few years, yeah, and he can speak Bahasa, and I hope speakers can also combine English and Bahasa, because most audience here from Indonesia. Okay, I will give opportunity to Jim to deliver his presentation. Yeah, you have 20 minutes, James. Yeah, please, time is yours.
Great, thank you Pak Hamdani. Pada awalnya saya ingin ucapkan terima kasih kepada panitia atas undangan ini untuk hadir hari ini untuk berbagi sedikit gagasan dan wacana mengenai Islam dan development di Indonesia. So thank you for the invite. Saya juga mohon maaf karena belum dapat hadir secara in person. Jadi terpaksa secara online saja. Jadi mohon maaf kepada para pembicara lain dan para panitia dan kawan-kawan di sana. Ini sangat menarik sekali program kerjasama antara IAIN Manado sama kawan-kawan di UIN Jakarta. Jadi semoga konferensi ini jadi sukses. Saya baru lihat agenda kemarin itu, lihat ada field trip ke Bunaken. Aduh kasihan nggak bisa hadir secara in person. Okay, so let me begin a little bit. Sebagai ini, seperti yang disampaikan tadi, saya antropolog sosial budaya. So I approach religion and development and the digital world from the perspective of a cultural anthropologist who also teaches in Islamic studies. So some of my work and training has been, of course, around Islam, media, and politics. And today I would like to use the opportunity to also comment on some of the more recent politics of development and religion in Indonesia. Ini sudah jadi topik yang sangat hangat sekarang ini, apalagi beberapa bulan yang baru lewat ini. So if you'll permit me, I will share my screen, share my slides, and probably take maybe 15 minutes, maximum 20, of course. And I will be able to share some of this, and I look forward to some questions and conversation afterwards. Some of what I will discuss, as I mentioned, is might even be a bit controversial as we think about the current moment in Indonesia's climate. So please harus digarisbawahi bahwa saya memang dari perspektif akademisi kritikal. Jadi ini bukan untuk menzolimi ormas atau orang, tapi kita untuk melihat keadaannya yang apa adanya di Indonesia saat ini. Okay, so I will share my screen and sorry ya. Okay, and I'll begin. Okay, can you see it okay?
Yeah, looks
Bisa
good.
ya?
Perfect.
Okay, siap. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. Okay. Sorry, I'll minimize this real quick and take this down. Okay, so Islam and development in Indonesia, perils and possibilities. Kalau dilihat dari perspektif dunia barat, ini foto yang diambil dari halaman front page, halaman pertama New York Times mengenai Green Islam atau Islam hijau, or yang juga disebut Green Dean. So here we have Prof. Kiai Haji Nasaruddin Umar, the Grand Imam Besar of Istiqlal, since he first entered and assumed that position, had thought to try and make Istiqlal into a green building. It has done so with great success and also international acclaim. Ini sudah jadi sebagian dari strategi soft power juga, hubungan antara development, environmentalism, and soft power Indonesia. Jadi kalau ada tamu yang berkunjung ke Istiqlal, misalnya kemarin si Paus, pasti mereka dikasih lihat beberapa ya apa ya, beberapa komponen Green Islam di Istiqlal. Pada saat yang sama, walaupun banyak peluang ada, tetap ada yang bahaya juga kalau kita mau membahas Islam development di Indonesia pada zaman pasca Orde Baru dan demokrasi ini. Okay, for the next slide. Okay, sorry ya. Okay, nah dari segi antropologi atau dari perspektif antropologi, banyak antropolog yang telah meneliti politik pembangunan yang secara neoliberal atau dalam konteks neoliberal global. Yang mungkin salah satu yang paling terkenal itu ya, the anti-politics machine, development, depoliticization, and bureaucratic power in Lesotho di Afrika. Nah ini menurut si penulis Prof. James Ferguson ini, development itu kalau dari perspektif World Bank atau IMF, mereka coba untuk memisahkan development dan politik. Walaupun itu selalu terkait sangat erat. Rekannya Akhil Gupta, salah satu yang juga paling terkenal, post-colonial developments, beliau melihat bagaimana dalam konteks dan zaman kolonial maupun pasca kolonial, bagaimana development sangat terkait erat dengan the nation state dan colonial state. Nah, kalau di dalam konteks Indonesia, mungkin salah satu yang paling terkenal itu Tanya Murili, yang buku pertama itu The Will to Improve, Perencanaan Kekuasaan dan Pembangunan di Indonesia. So as she's looking at this book in particular, she's looking at Indonesian history, or more recent history, modern Indonesia, especially of the New Order. Nah, kalau kita mau membahas pembangunan di Indonesia, dari perspektif linguistik ya, pembangunan itu ada sesuatu kata yang sangat sangat bermakna dari berbagai perspektif. Jadi kata pembangunan itu sangat dikaitkan dengan politik, apalagi kalau dalam zaman Soeharto. Nah, kalau kita lihat konteks internasional ya, pembangunan di Indonesia misalkan pada tahun 70-an, 80-an, ini kan dari perspektif global, IMF, Amerika, dunia barat, mereka anggap bahwa asal ekonomi itu memang berjalan, asal pembangunan itu tetap ada, tidak apa-apa kalau presiden itu seorang diktator. Kan itu pada saat itu ada wacana bahwa orang atau negara harus memilih demokrasi atau pembangunan, economic development or democracy. Nah, kalau kita lihat Indonesia saat ini sudah terbuktikan bahwa ini tidak benar. Indonesia juga bisa memfokus kepada pembangunan pada saat yang sama mengikuti struktur kenegaraan yang demokratis. Nah, bukan pembangunan saja yang dipolitikkan pada saat Orde Baru kan. Kata-kata dan ide-ide wacana kultural, kebudayaan, misalkan gotong royong, itu sering dikaitkan dalam folk language ya, dikaitkan dengan pembangunan. Padahal frasa yang sangat penting dalam misalkan budaya Jawa atau budaya petani, gotong royong, itu sudah dipolitikkan untuk tujuan negara, untuk tujuan Soeharto sendiri, untuk yaitu kekuasaan. Nah, kalau kita lihat pada saat pasca Orde Baru, ini menarik sekali terkait dengan makna kata pembangunan. Dan dari perspektif rakyat ya, ini dari perspektif rakyat kalau kita ambil perspektif dari bawah ke atas, ya jelas kita harus membahas lagu-lagu Iwan Fals. Kalau kita memang mau merasakan pendapat-pendapat rakyat yang biasa, si Budi kecil di Tugu Pancoran, bukan yang di gedung DPR, kita ikuti liriknya. Lirik album Suara Hati, lagu sentral Suara Hati. Itu diterbit tahun 2002 kurang lebih. Nah, ini sebagian saja dari liriknya. Coba kita membaca sebentar ya. Maaf. Suara hati kenapa pergi? Suara hati jangan pergi lagi. Kau dengarkan orang-orang yang menangis sebab hidupnya dipacu nafsu. Now, follow the next line is especially important. Kau rasakan sakitnya orang-orang yang tertindas oleh derap sepatu pembangunan. If we translate that into English, you feel the pain of those people who have been tranced upon, uh, who have suffered under the gallop or the march of pembangunan. So menurut Bang Iwan ini sudah saat jelas bahwa pembangunan itu ada gerakan politik, bukan gerakan environmental saja atau gerakan dengan tujuannya pembangunan yang nyata. Nah, terus kau lihatlah pembantaian demi kekuasaan yang secukil. Kau tahukah alam yang kesakitan, lalu apa yang akan kau suarakan? Jadi ini dalam konteks pasca Orde Baru, he's reminding people, where did your voice go all of this time? Yes, there were activists, 98, there were activists before, but where did the voice go? And he says, now that we have a democratic Indonesia, do you know about the alam yang kesakitan? And then lalu apa yang akan kau suarakan? What will you say? And so here we're thinking about today development in the respect of economic development, but also with respect to environmental considerations and also the balance between development and economic ruins. Sudah tidak rahasialah bahwa di Indonesia banyak hutan-hutan sudah dirampak, banyak hutan-hutan yang ya pohon-pohon semua, hampir semua dipotong, di-clearing untuk digali tanahnya untuk jadi oil plantation, palm oil plantation. So we have to understand this development and sustainable development from a critical perspective. Bukan saja mengikuti pemerintah atau apalagi ormas-ormas tertentu. Now, religion and development harus diakui, harus digarisbawahi bahwa religion and development ini sesuatu fenomenal atau hal yang agak baru sebenarnya. Kalau kita lihat pada tahun 80-an, 70-an, 90-an, most programs in the IMF, World Bank, etc., they were very secular programs. Those people leading those programs were looking at GDP, they were looking at healthcare rates, they were looking at literacy rates, they were looking at pollution rates, but there was very little regard for religion. Important figures, at least in the American context, such as Dr. Catherine Marshall, has tried to shift this and show that we need to understand development, especially from the perspective of actors and activists who have religion as part of their understanding of development and especially of the environment. Now, this is not to say that there's a single idea about the environment, as we will get to in a little bit when we talk about fikih lingkungan. Now, if we also look to other places in terms of environmentalism and development in Indonesia and elsewhere, the book on the right by Ibrahim Abdul Matin is Green Deen, What Islam Teaches About Protecting the Planet. Now, some programs that try and connect Islam and development or Islam and environmentalism, they will often try and, what we say in English, cherry pick, atau misalkan mungkin mencari sesuatu kata yang tertentu dalam Al-Quran tanpa memahami lebih dalam perspektif lingkungan di ajaran Islam. So if we look at the book on the left, Muslim Environmentalisms by Prof. Gade, yang kemarin kalau nggak salah berikan kuliah umum di UIN Jakarta atau dan UI 3 mungkin. And again, it says, look, it's not enough just to see what are the kind of similar words, such as viceroy of the planet or understanding conservation or recycling. Itu tidak cukup menurut dia. Menurut beliau, kita harus memahami bahwa di dalam ajaran Al-Quran, uh, terus dengan hadis, itu ada kewajiban moral yang nanti akan harus ditanggung jawab. Kita harus bertanggung jawab nanti apakah kita merusak alam atau kita apa ya membantu atau help and improve the environment. So can we look at places such as Istiqlal as green Islam? Is that the direction that we should think about, the institutions and perhaps the national institutions and religious institutions? Does that make green Islam at this institutional level? Walaupun pada saat yang sama, the problem of litter, plastic, etc., is still there. So, one solution can certainly not be everything, but what has happened in Istiqlal itu sepertinya sudah menjadi sebagian dari brand Indonesia. Brand Indonesia dalam Islam hijau atau Green Islam, Green Deen, because this particular aspect has become popular in other places and has become part of the religious diplomacy. So jadi pasti kalau ada rombongan dari luar negeri mampir di misalkan di gedung Pancasila di Kementerian Luar Negeri itu dekat loh dengan Istiqlal, pasti diantar ke sana bertemu silaturahmi dengan Kiai Haji Nasaruddin Umar. So this has become an important part of Indonesia's profile, but it's not necessarily a structural component of Indonesia's future sustainable environmental development. Nah, saya mohon maaf mau membahas sesuatu dua hal yang mungkin agak sensitif. Tapi ini kalau kami membahas lingkungan di Indonesia itu sudah tidak ada rahasia di seluruh dunia bahwa di Brasil, di Indonesia, di negara lain itu sudah banyak illegal logging dan sudah terlibat dalam korupsi di mana-mana. Saya sendiri sudah di Kapuas, hampir 20 tahun lalu saya melihat, wah ini kok bisa ya bupati atau orang lain yang begitu kaya, tapi belum ada jembatan yang akan membantu orang dari sebelah sungai sini sampai sana. Katanya orang di sana itu pada sama kami, sama saya, bahwa itu dikantongi semua. Orang nggak pikir jauh ke depan. Jadi kalau apa ya, kalau tergoda dengan korupsi, itu memang lingkungan dan development itu dua-duanya gagal. Nah, kami mungkin ingat dulu Harrison Ford, si Indiana Jones kan mampir di kantor Zulkifli Hasan waktu beliau masih menteri forestry, the forestry menteri kehutanan. And you'll remember if you've seen this on YouTube, masih ada di sana. Coba kalau belum nonton, coba lihat. You can see Harrison Ford very angrily asking Zulkifli Hasan about illegal logging, saying, "You are the minister of forestry. How can you not know about these things?" Kalau Zulkifli Hasan itu diam saja, hampir semua wawancara diam saja. Nah, ini kita harus dengan apa ya berani dengan benar melihat hubungan antara Muhammadiyah, PAN, dan lingkungan dan politik lingkungan. Kalau itu memang Muhammadiyah selalu bisa dapat mengatakan bahwa itu PAN itu lain daripada Muhammadiyah. Pada saat yang sama, tetapi kadang-kadang itu kalau orang PAN misalkan Zulkifli Hasan yang ketua MPR juga dulu, itu kan memang hubungan antara PAN Muhammadiyah pasti ada. Walaupun Muhammadiyah mengatakan dan bilang bahwa ini bukan secara formal. PAN juga bilang bahwa kami tidak membicara di atas nama Muhammadiyah. Itu jelas. Tapi memang overlapping pasti ada. So, what is going to happen to the future? How do religion, ormas Islam, agree or not agree to place people as ministers of very sensitive ministries? Coba lagi, BUMN. Siapa berani menjadi menteri BUMN? Hati nurani itu pasti akan diuji seringkali. Nah, kalau kita lihat ormas lain dalam masalah mining atau ya penambangan, So this has become a very important topic and one that worries me greatly in Indonesia, especially with Muhammadiyah and NU. If you remember, Jokowi said that made an offer to Ormas Islam that they can manage the mining concessions. There have been other religions such as Catholicism in Indonesia yang telah menolak, bilang bahwa kami tidak mau menerima tawaran dari pemerintah. Dan ini memang tetap tawaran. Tawaran untuk apa? Nah, itu dia. So, development, religion, and the state. Kalau dalam konteks Ormas NU, itu memang jadi wah sangat heboh sekali kemarin. 2-3 bulan lalu, ya kurang lebih 2 bulan lalu, pada awal bulan Juli, akhir bulan Juni ya, bahwa Uli Labsyar Abdallah yang beliau sebetulnya kawan saya. Jadi saya mau garis bawahi, bukan ini saya bukan memfitnai beliau, tapi ini saya lihat dari perspektif sosial. Jadi logo NU itu sudah dirubah jadi ulama nambang. Jadi kebalik NU UN, kebalik tujuannya. Nah ini sudah setelah ini, wah ini menjadi argumentasi sangat heboh. Apakah krisis alam itu memang betul atau terlalu alarmis menurut Ulil? Ada yang menulis, Quo vadis Ulil? Kemana Ulil? Itu bahasa Latin. And they see a shift in his perspectives from the perspective of Islam liberal in the early 2000s to one that he's been accused of being much more of a part of the regime, bukan Jokowi saja tapi di PBNU.
Sorry,
Dengan,
you have 1 minute left, Matt.
yes, I see that. Thank you. So the other thing that I think we have to worry about is not just the environment and fikih lingkungan, but what is really at stake? Apa itu tawaran konsesi tambang? It's a quid pro quo. More research needs to be done, but how is it that dua ormas Islam itu, how did they get behind Prabowo so easily? Why did nobody talk about the moral failings of the president-elect? Why has nobody talked about the economic interests of forestry, etc.? So I think Indonesia has to do some serious discussions and reflections. Here I offer two Indonesian scholars, bukan dari Barat, about the relationship between Islam and the state, challenging the secular state, a kind of Islamization of law, but also a kind of quid pro quo from the state to NU and Ormas Islam. So I would encourage Ormas Islam in Indonesia to do some more critical reflection on their connection with the state and to what degree their involvement in concessions will not only make it difficult on the environment, but also perhaps lead to unintended consequences of corruption in the future. Thank you very much. Saya mohon maaf kalau ada kata-kata yang kurang berkenan dan saya berterima kasih atas perhatiannya. Thank you.
Ya, tepuk tangan. Thank you very much, Pak Jim. It seems that the more you interact with Indonesian people, the more critical you have. Yeah, it's a good progress, I think. And yeah, the last thing that you mentioned about tambang actually was asked by our senior lecturer yesterday. Maybe Pak Fuad will ask again once more, yeah, to get the answer. Yeah, just stay tuned, Jim, in this link, and we can continue. And after the three speakers, we have question and answers. And the next speaker is Pak Phil Patrick. You have 15 minutes also, yeah, and I hope the organizer can show the slide. Thank you. Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, you can see here and yeah, yeah, yeah. Where is it? Where is it?
Halo, good morning. Selamat pagi semuanya. Nama saya Patrick Ziegenhain. Saya aslinya dari Jerman, tapi sudah lama di Indonesia dan sudah tahu sedikit bahasa Indonesia. Tapi hari ini saya akan bicara dalam bahasa Inggris. Presentasi saya tentang 3 konflik. My presentation is about 3 conflicts in Southeast Asia, in which also Islam plays a role, and I will talk about these conflicts from a comparative perspective. So first we must say violence and armed conflict between states, it's very rare in Southeast Asia. In the last 50 years, since the 1980s, there have been no war between states, but a lot of wars within states, meaning that we had, I have a map here, maybe you can see now, the states, next, yeah, here. We see that also in Indonesian territory, there have been a series of conflicts. We have been witnessed the conflict in Timor-Leste, where we split away finally from Indonesia in the late 1990s, early 2000s. We have the conflict in Papua, which is still not yet solved. But I will not talk about this from Indonesia, but I will go to Aceh. Yeah? Aceh is also another conflict which have been going on since the 1970s, which has now, I would say, come to an end, but I will look at it and compare it to a conflict in other countries in Southeast Asia, namely in Patani, which is in southern Thailand, where Muslim Islam community lives, and in the south of the Philippines, where the Bangsamoro people live and where there's an ongoing conflict. So I will look at this, and of course there's a connection with Islam. We can so here. Okay, next slide, please, or can I click? Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so thank you. So I think that there's, of course, if you do a literature review, then you see that there are a lot of literature in many languages, in English as well as in Bahasa Indonesia, and many ideas, but I think there's a comparative perspective is not yet there. So I would like to delve into that topic and look what similarities and differences can we discover when we look at the 3 cases of Aceh, Patani, and Bangsamoro. And I also would like to ask what kind of conclusions can be drawn from a comparative perspective. So is there something what we can learn when we look at these 3 conflicts from a comparative perspectives? Methodology, of course I did a literature review, read a lot about these conflicts, but I've been also on the ground, meaning in all these areas, most of them in Aceh. I've been already more than 10 times in Aceh, also giving talks there to local universities and so on. Then also in Bangsamoro, I've been a few times in Kota Batu, that's the capital, so to say, in Bangsamoro, meeting with local people there, and also in Patani. Not so often, but I also met a lot of people from Patani at international conferences particularly. But I think we also have to see the perspective from the national level, meaning people in Jakarta, Bangkok, and Manila, how they look at the conflict to understand the complex dynamics of these local conflicts, which of course affect also the national level. So, next slide, please. So let's come to the similarities. We say that all these countries are relatively big in terms of territory and population. Indonesia, of course, as you know, is more than 270 million, Philippines more than 100 million, and Thailand with around 60 million. They are a few million people only, the people in Aceh, Patani, and Bangsamoro. Maybe 2 or 3, Aceh 5 million. So in a huge country, they're a small group, but nevertheless important because they have their own identity and their own, let's say, ambitions that they want to pursue, their demands, that they will be listened at the national level. And if you look on a map, maybe you can go one back, you will see that all these areas are geographically at the periphery, meaning Aceh is the westernmost part of Indonesia. Bangsamoro is in the south, very far, more than 1,000 kilometers away from Manila. And also the same holds true for Patani, which is 1,000 kilometers south of Bangkok, the capital, the center of Thailand. So we have periphery geographically, which I think it's very important also to understand why these groups have their specific local identity. Also, we see in economic terms that all of these three regions are rather underdeveloped. If we compare, I will later give some data on this, that economically the income level, level of education, poverty, they are lower, but the poverty is higher, so to say. Yeah? Okay. Then all these three regions demanded in the past for self-determination. It started in the 1960s, 1970s. There were initially independence movement. All of these three, they wanted to separatists, you can say, split from their three respective countries because they felt neglected and demands were not listened. And so, but with the time, there were negotiations starting. But of course, there was a lot of violence in the past between these regional groups and the central state, meaning who sent the army and military forces there. In Indonesia, we had the era Operasi Militer, DOM for many years. 10,000 people were killed in all these three areas. But the development is, now I come to the differences later, has changed a bit over time. So we have resistance against the central state and repressive, we can say brutal military action against these groups at the local level. Okay, next slide, please. Of course, we can also say, from the national perspective, all these three countries, Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia, promote nationalism and have political centers which are quite important. Manila, so for example, Indonesia, Java is the center of this country, as you all know, political economy. All presidents, except B.J. Habibie, have been Javanese, and that's a certain kind. The same holds true if you look in Bangkok, which is nearly 50% of the GDP of Thailand is coming from Bangkok, and Manila in the Philippines. So they promote national unity, which is very important in all the three countries. We have NKRI in Indonesia, meaning the unitary state, that there is, so to say that there is originally, no tolerance for separatist ideas, and the same holds true for Thailand. When you talk with people in Bangkok, they still have the idea, these people in Pattani, they still do not understand the Thai state, meaning that we need to re-educate them, and they have even in some documents that they tell them why the king and the monarchy in Thailand is the best for Malay Muslims in Pattani. So meaning there's a certain degree of stubbornness also in the centers who have a lack of understanding what's going on in these peripheral regions. Of course, there are also very often these people there who demand, let's say, local autonomy or more, more rights. They're often branded as troublemakers. There are if you go to Manila, for example, in the Philippines, you see these wanted posters like in the US, where, the terrorists and all of them are Muslim people in Muslim attire, and sometimes they are just scratched, so they are, meaning that's also a sort of negative branding of certain regions if you see this. Okay, next slide. Now let's come to the differences. We have Aceh. I mean, that's a very positive development, we can say. After the tsunami, which of course was negative, but then in 2005 we had the peace agreement between the Indonesian government and the GAM, the Gerakan Aceh Merdeka, which transformed into Partai Aceh. And so this autonomy has been widely implemented, and nowadays there are not many grievances coming from Aceh. It has become quite relatively quiet about Aceh, we can say, what is a good sign. So the government does not interfere too heavily into Aceh local affairs. On the other hand, the GAM, or the Partai Aceh, has taken over control of the province and has benefited from that. We also, I think one important factor for this is that Indonesia is a democratic country, meaning that there is, that the decisions are based on the discussions, on finding consensus, musyawarah mufakat, and so on. I think that's very important, and not I think under authoritarian military government, like in the Suharto times, this would have been much more difficult to get this peace agreement with Aceh. Bangsamoro in the Philippines, similar. Philippines is a fragile democracy, but at least we can see that the governments under Aquino, as well as Duterte and currently Marcos Jr., they have reached a peace deal with the Bangsamoro elites, particularly the MILF, Moro Islamic Liberation Front. And it took a while until it was passed through Congress, the parliament of the Philippines. It's interesting. A lot of these elites assembled in the parliament. They were, of course, against this, and because they feared this would lead to separatism or would damage national unity and so on. But the presidents, they break it through, and now it's in the process of implementation. The development stage in Bangsamoro is not very good. There are not many local people who are good in administrative things. Then they had the COVID pandemic and so on, so everything is delayed. The agreement has already been passed in 2020 or so, but it's still in process of implementation. And next year will be the first local elections in Bangsamoro for the new governor plus the local parliament. Yeah? So it's in the process of implementation. And I think also that in the Philippines, these democratic processes has helped to find this relatively positive solution. Next slide. So we come to the trouble. Where the conflict has so far not come to an end is Patani. There's no autonomy agreement yet. Negotiations are ongoing. At least in February, we had a ceasefire agreement between some of the rebel groups together with the government, but are ongoing. I think the problematic factor is that Thailand is not led by a civilian government, but actually by the military together with the monarchy. Yeah? That's non-democratic government structures, and it's very little understanding for the grievances and the identity of the people in Patani. And so that's why I think it will be difficult to get get a solution if Thailand still has this kind of political system. So come to the next slide, please. So of course, what is the role of Islam? Of course, Islam is a decisive factor in all these three conflicts which we have. Islamic groups are involved. Aceh is a specific case. Islam is the majority religion in Indonesia, of course. So 87% of the Indonesians are Muslims. And of course, the dominant force in Aceh are Muslims, which have a different kind of interpretation, but very similar in general. Yeah? But it has this component. And so there were also some demands for specific Islamic traditions like Sharia law introduced in Aceh, which have been implemented in the peace agreement. So it's more complicated in Bangsamoro and in Patani, because Islam is a minority religion in Thailand and the Philippines, and the more, so that's why Islam is, of course, that they can live their Islamic rules, their Islamic life, can conduct prayers and Islamic law and so on. That was part of the demands of the local communities, and here, Bangsamoro has included this in the peace agreement, so they can have Sharia law and also heritage, and at a local level, there are court system will be introduced. In Patani, it's far away from that. It's not yet. The Thai state does not agree, let's say, local Islamic rules yet, and it looks a bit as if it would not be implemented also in the near future. Okay, next slide, please. So now let's look a bit in the future. What will be the perspectives? I would say in Aceh, autonomy brought an end to the violence between military and these Aceh, GAM and the people who are fighting for local autonomy. We see the party, let's say the GAM, who transformed into a political party called Partai Aceh, dominating, but also losing in the last elections more and more votes. In the first elections, they got 80% of the votes. Now they are down to around 40-50%. and lost also governor elections to persons, meaning people are not so happy. They expected more from this movement. They expected that they have, let's say, good income, a better situation of poverty. We see also that the level of corruption in Aceh has not really declined, even under self-autonomy, meaning the new elites from the GAM not doing everything better than the old elites were sent from Jakarta. So we still have some persistent problems. And Aceh is here, that's why I have this statistic on the right side, is from BPS, Badan Pusat Statistik. We see that Aceh is still among the rather poor and underdeveloped province. We have a poverty level of around 15 to 20% in Aceh. Of course, Papua is worse, and NTT, meaning the eastern provinces, but compared to, let's say, most provinces in Sumatra or Java, Aceh is still underdeveloped, even if they have a lot of natural resources, yeah, and also deals for oil and gas. Yeah. But in general, also we can say the Reconciliation Commission, there was also part of the peace deal where the Aceh, where GAM and so insisted on it, that there will be, let's say, the violence of the military, the massacres and so on, they will have to be checked judicially. This has not led to success. Indonesia, the central government has blocked all efforts on that, and yeah, this has to do with the special role of the military in this country. Okay, then let's come to next slide, please. I will make some prediction about Bangsamoro. Bangsamoro is quite successful, but not yet implemented. So we will see the details when it becomes implemented, when it becomes effective. And at the moment, Murad Ibrahim, which we see here in this person, he's the interim governor of Bangsamoro, but he's not yet elected. We must say that he's the chairman of the biggest group who signed the peace agreement also with the government, MLF, Moro Islamic Liberation Front. But I think in the future there will be also other groups within Bangsamoro who want to get access to the government positions, to the funds and so on. And if you see that on the up here, this map is from the Bangsamoro government official homepage. You see that they have, even in this small province, 5 million people, they have 13 different ethnic groups. Yeah? And there will be, there are already some, let's say, tensions between these groups and violent clashes and so on. I think it will not go so peaceful as Aceh, I would predict, yeah, because their MLF is maybe the biggest group at the moment within Bangsamoro, but not the only one. There are other groups who also want to get a piece of the cake, I'm very sure. And also Bangsamoro is, with a huge distance, the poorest and most underdeveloped region in the Philippines. Also, it will take many years to close that gap. It's not so easy. And of course, people are expecting this now from the new government, that economically there will be something better than the previous government from Manila has done. Now they want to see something, and I think it will be difficult. But it could be that Bangsamoro can attract some international cooperation funds and so on, maybe also from Indonesia and so on. There will be international, but we will see if this will help the ordinary people in Bangsamoro. Okay, last slide, next slide. Yeah, I'm on this last slide here. The conflict which is still the most problematic among these three cases is here in southern Thailand, the Pattani region. I think more autonomy should be the solution there. People deserve to have their, let's say, right to practice their religion, right to practice their local traditions. They're ethnic Malays, actually, and of course they cannot, separatism is always a bit problematic, but we could make an easy solution in analogy to Bangsamoro if let the people do their culture and religious ceremonies and so on. And but the problematic is that they don't have one leadership, meaning like a dominating organization like GAM in Aceh or the MLF in Bangsamoro, but there are different groups, which I have some flags here, and also a lot of them are not yet ready to stop violence, and so the Thai army has always a justification to crash these groups, and the problem is also that the military monarchy leadership, as I already said, have undemocratic structure and very little understanding about this conflict. Okay, there's one more other conflict which could be, also has an Islamic dimension, which I did not include here, but I want to say is the Rohingya, of course, in Myanmar, yeah, which is also a Muslim minority in a majority Buddhist country. But here, this has already gone so far. But I think the southern tile, also Patani, Aceh, and Bangsamoro have many similarities and deserve that they will be studied more deeply, and I think a comparative perspective can bring some conclusions, what can be learned from one case for the other. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Terima kasih banyak.
Yeah, terima kasih, Dr. Patrick, for interesting presentation. I think the comparison between three countries would be more research, deeply, And next presentation will be delivered by Professor Ismail. It's about development argument theories with revitalizing logical stand for integration of knowledge at the edge of artificial intelligence. I think Professor Ismail will not present in PowerPoint because his presentation would be powerful. So I trust him. Okay, time is yours, 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Selamat pagi. Alhamdulillah. That's all I know about Bahasa Indonesia. Often. Selamun Aleyküm. Bismihi subhanahu ve min şeyin illa yusebbihu bihamdihi. Actually, the previous speakers, James and Patrick, they were very good. I've learned a lot. Thank you very much. Because, you know, from Istanbul, I'm from Istanbul University, looking at this side of Nusantara part of the world, it is little complicated for us. You know, I'm trying to understand, you know, the similarities, differences, and unity, and so on and so forth stuff. And I see the political arguments, and the regional arguments, and they are all very, very fruitful, and they are very complicated sometimes. So actually, I study more on philosophy and the logical side of the arguments. So when I look at the development argumentations, I will be speaking more on development arguments for the revival of the logical stance for our integration of knowledge in our time, AI times, which we are living in a very intriguing times. Not only in Manado, also in anywhere in the world, including, you know, the Muslim world and the non-Muslim world, we are facing challenges and the perils of developing conceptual understanding about the existence and the practices of it. So what I would like to emphasize today, now I'm tracking my time, but I would like to emphasize actually some points, the challenges about the, you know, how to develop argumentation from logical point of view. Primarily, you know, in our times, in a various language levels, we have different origins of the production of the thought. For Muslims, the origin of the thought normally is thought to be derived from Quran Hakim. But also we have all, as a different nations and regions, we have our own local and regional sources for that. So our traditions, our cultures, our ways of living. So previous speakers were talking about mostly on them, more anthropological, more regional. In my view, now when we are talking about global thought developing, we have challenges, but they seem to be coming more from economical, more political, more national. But I like to emphasize that, for a human being, Aristotle starts with talking about that, the human being is the rational thinking animal. But since he says, al-hayawan al-natiq, when he speaks of a man, he speaks of as someone as a kind of not coded yet. So there have been many discussions about that, about how one can develop concepts. So when we have our concepts, we are embedded some certain things as a human being. We have a rationale, and we have a reason, we have a ratio. But when we have a ratio in our minds, rationalism comes out of that. When we have those concepts, actually our concepts primarily embedded in us. What is existence? What is to be being? What is to be a human being? Before anything else, to start talk about, Patals and the Turks and gypsies. And when we are emphasizing any concepts, we are derived of our instinct about those concepts. So when we came to our age, now in the age of AI, we are having the computers, AI is using the algorithms amongst concepts. So when we have these algorithms, one has to be more clear than ever. One has to be distinct about the concept more than ever, because now we are challenging not to confuse concepts. For Muslims, if you are using any concept, for example, goodness, khair, we need to study about how one can structure this frame of goodness. If you are talking about khair, goodness, or being good, or being something needs to be good, because good has to be good. This is very simple equation. But in those equations, we need to come back how logical stands are embedded by definition. And first of all, there is a need for meta logic of these structures. So in order to define, for example, goodness, we need to go back how to define the definition. So by defining the definition is the key issue. Should I define goodness with, for example, cultural things? Should I define goodness with historical things? For example, when I say, he is a good man, she is a good lady, in my sentence, in my statement, how should I start to make it meaningful? Because making meaningful is the most important thing in any logical stance. Making meaningful, I think, is one of the struggle of AI in our time, because only human being can make a meaning. We can have the concepts, and artificial intelligence may have the concept. You can dictate what is good to AI. You can teach it. So in the machine learning, one can teach what is good to machine. But now, the problem comes from there. But how machine can think of goodness? So when we are talking about the goodness, something as a meaningful has to be aroused. So producing meaning and making meaning, making the meaning of goodness. You can put any concept in the place of goodness. And one needs to produce meaning. And when someone produces the meaning of goodness, one needs, he or she needs to have the roots and the source of that making processes of a concept. So in order to have this meaningful concept, for example, I need to be sure, I need to be certain, yaqini. I need to be very clear and distinct. What are my response to about what is the meaning of my existence? Who am I? Where am I coming from? Where am I coming for what? Why I am in Manado now? What am I doing here? What am I doing with those great friends? What is my job? What is my responsibility? I should have responded those questions before I come here. Alhamdulillah, the responses are quite well for me. But you know, I have to respond. I have to answer those questions before I start to make any statement. So when I ground them, when I ground my conceptual stance, then I can develop any argumentation. And my production of any argumentation should derive from my conceptual frame. If I don't have any conceptual frame, for example, if I don't know what is Manado, is it in the Mars, or is it in the Venus, or is it somewhere in the world, or is it in the Nusantara? So I should have some idea. Having idea is a very Platonic versus Aristotelian understanding. In the history of logic amongst the Muslim, in the Islamic history of logic, they use Aristotelian definition with the flavor of Platonism, which means we have the concepts mainly from the Quran Hakim. Muslims are ready to take concepts from Quran Hakim, but also add and expand and utilize the concepts. So I'm sure you have many concepts in Bahasa Indonesia came from Quranic concepts. In Turkish, for example, we have many words are taken and derived from Quran Hakim. But it is not enough, because concepts are the steps of going up to argumentation. For example, you can have, I think, 3,000, 4,000 concepts from the Quran Hakim. But, you know, in order to produce argumentation, we need to clarify and distinctly define them in a proper logical frame. So since we have those concepts, then we can use in the sentences and statements. So what I mean here by integration of knowledge, when I start to use those concepts, I transfer or I utilize them in my statements, whereas in my line of argumentation. So in those argumentation, okay, I have to be clear. I have to be distinct. I have to be very clarified. Actually, these things has to be added up point by point. As you all know, one of the name of the Quran is Burhan. Burhan is demonstration. Al-Burhan, the demonstration. The another name for Quran Hakim is Bayan. The Bayan. The narration and exposition. In those exposition, we can produce our dispositions. And our disposition, temayül, comes from our personal preferences. So I like to make this statement in that way. I want to explain my view about the existence, for example. You can put anything inside that as well. But while making this statement, you know, from the Quran, there is a challenge for the text of the Quran. Hatu burhanekum, bring your evidence, show your demonstration. What is the ishara, delil, indication, reference, proving, argumentations? And those argumentations from the Quran actually is very interesting. It is, how many? 2 minutes. I can say actually only two things. When Quran invites to recognize the concepts, there are two main points, three main teachers, trainers. I will say three universal trainers. One is the Quran itself teaching how to use the concept, how to produce argumentation. This is in the lines of the papers, actually, in the lines of the text. And the second, actually, is the line of the universe. You know, it is the ayah, everything is a sign in the universe, indicates something. This indicates something. This indicates, that indicates. And I need to understand the meaning of those indications, what it refers to, what flower indicates. This flower indicates what? In Manay Harfi, which is used as a very technical methodology, Manay Harfi, when you look at the flower, when you have F-L-O-W-E-R in English, flower, it is just the letters. But these letters should refer something. This is flower, but this flower should indicate something, which is, when I see this flower with its beauty, with its meaning, with its this, with its that, it should refer its creator, its maker, flower maker. So I should understand from this flower how this flower refers to me to produce an argumentation, and it indicates me there is a creator of flower. Sani Hakim is the producer of this one. So three muallims. One is the Quran Hakim. The second is the universe with the Manay Harfi. We can look through to produce the concepts and argumentation. And finally, it was the celebration of Mevlid Rasul. And I see there are lots of celebration this week. And the third one is the Rasul Ekrem ﷺ. He teaches us exactly same thing what the Quran Hakim and the universe tells us conceptually, propositionally, with the propositional attitude, and indicates that there is a unity of knowledge. There is an integration of knowledge. So I will end it, my talk with the emphasize that when we live, or since we live in the age of AI, the challenges can only be derived from those trainers of thought, because everything starts with thinking, tefekkür, teammül, tedebbür, and ends by it. Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pak.
I'm on time, yeah?
Yeah, Hacinebioglu. Is that the right pronunciation? Yeah.
Very perfect.
Hacinebioglu. Yeah. Actually, I didn't want to stop your talk because it's very interesting and inspiring ideas.
I was
But
just
I am a timekeeper, so
yes,
I have to.
it is your job.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is very good combination from anthropology and political scientists and then philosophical things. Yeah, and of course we try to combine this to stimulate the interdisciplinary things that you might interest to combine your discipline. Yeah, and now we only have 15 minutes to question and answer. That's why I only give you three audience, three question. One for Pak James, and then for Pak Patrick, and then for Professor Ismail. Anyone? Ya, Pak siapa namanya Pak? Pak Abdurrahman, number one Abdurrahman. Ladies. Ibu Maswani, you look very busy. Yeah. Okay, Pak Rusli, and then Pak Yusuf, Professor Yusuf. Okay.
Hey, Prof.
Abdurrahman, Pak Rusli, Prof Yusuf. Silakan kasihkan mic-nya.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih, saya pakai bahasa Indonesia saja, Pak. Saya Fatur Rahman Muhtar dari UIN Mataram. Saya ingin bertanya kepada speaker pertama dan kedua.
Kepada siapa?
Yang speaker yang pertama, pembicara pertama.
Jim Hoesterey.
Saya lupa namanya Pak.
Ya.
Sama pembicara kedua.
Patrick.
Memang menjadi problem umat Islam ya ketika menghubungkan antara agama dengan problem kekinian ya, masalah yang tadi itu developmentalism, kemudian environmental dan isu-isu kekinian lainnya gitu ya. Ketika menafsirkan tradisi-tradisi klasik dengan kekinian itu terkadang mendapat problem tersendiri dari kalangan umat Islam itu. Ya bisa dikatakan mereka menjadi liberal lah dan lain sebagainya gitu ya. Ini menjadi problem tersendiri gitu ya. Mungkin dari speaker pertama kami ingin memperoleh semacam pemikiran atau ide gitu ya. Bagaimana agama dengan problem kekinian itu, isu developmentalisme itu bisa terkoneksi dengan baik gitu ya. Sehingga agama itu bisa menjadi alat untuk mengatasi problem kekinian. Memang banyak usaha-usaha yang dilakukan oleh universitas, misalnya islamisasi ilmu pengetahuan, kemudian integrasi keilmuan dan lain sebagainya oleh UIN gitu ya. Tapi belum nampak hasilnya gitu ya. Tadi yang disampaikan oleh speaker pertama kan hanya bersifat naratif saja ya, deskriptif gitu ya. Tapi kita belum mendengarkan ada tawaran untuk mengatasi problem itu. Mungkin ini yang ingin kami dapatkan gitu ya pada kesempatan ini.
Ya, cukup Pak Speaker.
Untuk speaker kedua.
Kedua. Tadi yang pertama.
Yang pertama, kemudian yang
yang pertama tadi Pak Jim Hoesterey online. Bapak mengikuti?
Saya tidak ikuti.
Ya, itu berarti pembicara kedua ini.
Oh gitu.
Ya, ini pembicara kedua.
Yang pertama saya ikuti tadi. Lewat online itu kan?
Ya, online. Jim Hoesterey.
Saya hadir tadi.
Itu tadi untuk penanya pertama ya. Oke. Sekarang yang kedua.
Pertanyaan kedua,
ya.
masalah Moro, kemudian Aceh, Patani, Thailand itu, mungkin kalau ini penegakan syariah Islam ya, yang mereka inginkan ya, karena dari selama ini kan hukum penegakan di Indonesia gitu, misalnya penegakan syariah itu kan tidak berlaku dengan adil. Lalu mereka berusaha untuk membangkitkan kembali hukum Islam itu. Tapi ketika mereka menggunakan syariat Islam dengan syariat yang sesungguhnya gitu, mereka terbentur dengan HAM gitu ya. Mereka kan tidak bisa, kalau syariat Islam kan potong tangan, kemudian ya hukum-hukum yang berlaku pada masa Rasulullah lah. Nah itu tidak ya dianggap melanggar HAM, padahal mereka itu kan menginginkan seperti itu gitu. Sebenarnya masalah konflik di Indonesia itu misalnya dilatar belakangi oleh problem ekonomi sosial. Lalu agama itu dijadikan sebagai pemicu. Nah itu
bisa dipersingkat, sudah cukup ya?
Yang kami ingin tanyakan kepada speaker kedua, apakah ada tawaran bagaimana resolusi konflik gitu, misalnya atau mediasi konflik?
Ya.
Itu
okay.
ya. Itu mungkin tawaran yang kekinian ya.
Ya, sudah saya tangkap Pak.
Dapatkan dari
terima kasih.
Para pembicara. Terima kasih Pak.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Abdurrahman.
Demikian.
Ya.
Terima kasih.
For the first speaker and the second speaker, but I think the first question also relate to your talk, yeah. I will translate. I will translate later. The second question from Professor Hoesterey, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you very much, Pak Hamdani, for giving me an opportunity to ask many questions to three speakers. This is valuable moment for us to be here, hearing three speakers presenting their ideas about three different issues. For Professor Jim, I would like to know your views, Prof. Jim, about the political model in Indonesia in relation to religion nowadays. You talk about development, politics, and in the Indonesian context. But I'm just curious about your views on the political model in relation to religion in Indonesia nowadays. Politics sometimes used as a tool to manipulate religion or religious institutions. And many cases are used to strengthen this assumption. For instance, Nahdlatul Ulama nowadays. One of the samples is Nahdlatul Ulama nowadays, which is under control the government. And we can see and find the facts on social media and other medias. This is question addressed to Professor Jim. And for Pak Patrick, Pak Patrick, maybe it's slightly different, a different case. You talk about Aceh, you talk about areas in Southeast Asia, but I'm just curious about conflicts that have occurred in Ambon and Poso and others, because this is a kind of different. The characteristic of armed conflicts that occur in Indonesia are slightly different, especially in Ambon and Poso. Maybe you have ever listened to this case, Pak Patrick, conflict in Ambon and Poso.
Okay.
From your experience or based on your research, what are the real causal factors, whether it is about politics, religion, or something else? Or what is the relation between these factors? I'm just curious about your view in this context.
Yeah, thank you.
And the third question is addressed to Dr. Ismail. Dr. Ismail talked about artificial intelligence, and we have already knew that artificial intelligence have influenced many things in the world, especially in Indonesia. And of course, in religious interaction in Indonesia, AI play a great role in this context and in this case. My question is about AI influence to Islamic law, based on your experience in your country, Turkey. For example, in relation to fatwas giving and making. I think this is enough my question, and
okay.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Pak Hamdani. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And the last one, Professor Yusuf Rahman.
Thank you for the opportunity. The first question is for James. I just would like to have your elaboration on the tambang issue. What is the reason of the government to give the opportunity for the mass organization to also manage this tambang issue? And why the Muhammadiyah perception or policy on this issue change. The first one, they disagree, and then the next, they accept this policy. And for Patrick, the second speakers, you mentioned about Aceh and others, Prof. Rusli, about Ambon. My question about East Timor and Papua. You mentioned in the beginning that you don't want to discuss about that. But in Aceh, the problem has, quote unquote, ceased. In East Timor also ceased, but we still have in Papua. As a political scientist, what is your quote unquote advice to the government, either for solving the conflict in Papua, either to give the autonomy like the one in Aceh, or to separate from Indonesia? That's for the Papua conflict. And for Ismail, I think how to incite Muslims, students to have this kind of critical thinking. So that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for wonderful questions, and I think it's not easy to answer, yeah. But I start give opportunity to Pak James Hoesterey. I'm sure you have already recorded the question. Yeah,
Yes.
please, Pak. But we
Great.
have limited time, only 3 minutes for each speaker, yeah? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll try to be very quickly, and I'm looking at the time, so I'll answer these. Thank you, Pak Abdurrahman, Prof. Rusli, and Prof. Yusuf Rahman. Prof. Yusuf, sudah lama nggak ketemu. It's nice to see you again. So, let me first address, I'll try to be quick, Prof. Abdurrahman's question about what about any ideas or suggestions. Is there pemikiran atau ide of how to discuss this? Because it can be difficult when you merge Sharia with, keadaan yang, or a kind of hal-hal yang kekinian. And I think this has always been the case in Islam, of course. What's interesting and fascinating with the case of our friend Ulil Absar Abdallah is that 19 years ago, the MUI fatwa against liberal secularism and pluralism that was given the name sipilis very, very carefully. He was the one called liberal and dituduh jadi liberal. Sekarang kebalik dituduh jadi regimis dan segala macam, which I don't agree necessarily with those things. What is interesting to see now are the kind of falakah fiqh that have been happening and fiqh peradaban that have been happening in NU circles, over 250 over the last 2 years. It's also interesting to see how Ulil has tried to develop a fiqh lingkungan, but I think it will be up to, as it always has, debate among ulama and also among practitioners as to what direction that goes. So I should say, mohon maaf, I don't know that I have a suggestion within the Muslim community other than to continue the kinds of conversations and discussion and innovative thinking about fiqh that might be recontextualist, and I know it can be very difficult. But Prof. Rusli, in terms of what do I think about the political model of religion and the state in Indonesia right now, and I'm not sure, to be honest. I am trying to avoid projecting my own kind of Western senses of what Indonesia should be. And with respect to the mining, I'll just say that one of the biggest bad actors in Indonesian mining, of course, is Freeport mining with the Grasberg mine, etc., in Papua and Timika. If we're going to talk about the problems in Papua, we should also think about why did it become under Indonesian hands in the first place, because of mining and resources. Let's not forget the dates that Papua came in. But in terms of the state, I don't know. It has become very interesting in terms of thinking about NU in particular, in terms of its relationship with the state and which ministries it does or does not control. Ormas Islam are always trying to figure out how many seats of parliament they're going to get. And there's been a kind of, certainly within some NU circles, a lament last time after Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin became the vice president that NU didn't get more, tidak kebagian beberapa kursi lagi. But then we also have, of course, the Ministry of Religion under Gus Yakut, the younger brother of Gus Yahya. So it is interesting to see how NU has taken over some of the ministries or has been more popular. And that's not a new thing necessarily. But it gets me to my third point, and this is to answer Prof. Yusuf's question about, excuse me, about NU and the Tambang issue. And, you know, I have to say that, to be honest, I don't know enough. I would have to have spent more time researching this particular topic in terms of why Muhammadiyah seemed to have an apparent change, and also why NU was so enthusiastic about this. I think the optics look very bad for everybody involved. And is that projecting just a Western sense? No, I think we can look within Islamic teachings that we give priorities to certain understandings. We have to, if we're talking about tambang, we have to mempertimbang. We have to compare and weigh different arguments of fiqh in terms of politics, the state, and collusion. And it doesn't have to have a Western secular liberal model, but there has to be some conversation about the gap, the jarak, between Ormas Islam and the state. And that is never a complete gap, but it is an important one to think about as we think about potential for, and I don't want to say just the word corruption as in terms of a monetary corruption, but in terms of the expectation that Ormas Islam will then support the candidates. And I think it's become pretty clear that that was some of the intention of Jokowi when he first made this offer years ago. And then I don't know, but I don't know about any of the reasons why it was kind of wholeheartedly and enthusiastically supported by Gus Yahya and NU first. But that story is still playing out, and I think that will be perhaps a crucial one in terms of the extent to which Gus Yahya gets a second term as the Ketua NU. So thank you very much. Sorry, it took 4.5 minutes. Exceed my time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Pak Jim. You're still very humble. I know you know the answer, but maybe we can talk by drinking coffee. Yeah. Thank you, Pak Jim. Anyway, and next, Pak Patrick, you have also 3 questions in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hamdani, I got 3 questions from Professor Abdurrahman. Yeah, it's about Sharia and in the 3 regions and how this is working together with national law. And I think there are many examples worldwide where we can see that these two can coexist, meaning that this must be in the agreement, of course, autonomy agreement. What kind of autonomy is being given to the area? And in general, what concerning Sharia law usually is confined is family and heritage and culture and so on. I think that should be no problem for implementing both forms together, meaning national law and for the Muslims in the certain regions, the specific Sharia laws on these kind of matters. Criminal law is a bit more complicated, I must say. There should be, because there's a national criminal law and let's say also the Sharia law should be at least compatible with this, and this could be a problem in some cases. Okay, then the second question I got from Prof. Rusli, yeah? Professor Rusli, Ambon, Poso, yeah, good. These conflicts, of course, they also have a dimension with regional grievances, but I think in these 2 cases it's relatively clear that the politicization of religion, what we talked yesterday, is taking place in Poso and Ambon, yeah, or took place in the past. I think at the moment it's relatively quiet there in both regions, but in the past these were trouble spots within Indonesia. And here we can see more clear than in Aceh or in Bangsamoro that here some political or economic interest played with religion to mobilize certain groups against each other. I would say the conflicts in Aceh, Bangsamoro, and Patani are more driven by identity issues, yeah, not so much by socio-political, but identity is a very important factor. If you define yourself as a specific group, which is very different from that in the center of the country, meaning like in Manila or in Bangkok, then you cannot identify with the whole product, the nation state, and that, yeah, is another dimension, which is not so much socio-political, or meaning like the politicization of religion. This is more clear in the case of Ambon and Poso, I would say. Okay, now the third question I got from, what was his name? Professor Visit? Yeah, Papua, yeah, okay. The third question from respected colleague here. It's about East Timor and Papua. Yeah, of course these are conflicts, but they don't have this Islamic dimension. Yeah, these are Christian groups in East Timor, Catholics and Christians mostly in Papua. Yeah, of course they have also a background. Okay, East Timor, the history was different. 300 years under the Portuguese and not being part of the new founded Indonesia, that's a very new dimension. And Papua, yeah, that's also, how to say, it's an identity question, I would say, yeah. But it's not connected so much with religion. Okay, now I don't, if I got advice for the Indonesian government, yeah, of course I need to be very careful in making some statement. So, but I think also, okay, maybe let's say to East Timor, I want to say this, yeah. East Timor, I have a lot of East Timorese friends, also students at my university. They are very proud of their specific identity, but the socio-economic situation is very bad there, yeah. And even in West Timor, which is part of Indonesia, Kupang, yeah, the economic situation is much better, yeah. So a lot of that's what they really care about. What helps you to have a big identity, proud of your people, but if you're, you know, a lot of people will leave their country if this continues, yeah, and they will come to Indonesia and so on. You will see that there will be a development. And with Papua, another point which I would like to advise, difficult to say there's something, but I'm not, I think it should, the people are better off if they stay with Indonesia in Papua, I would say, but the demography is changing. The original Papua people, as we know them, with their physiognomy and so on, they're becoming a minority because there are so many settlers from other parts of Indonesia. In 30 years, you will see that there will be maybe 30% of the people there in what is now the 5 provinces of West Papua. They will be Papua. Maybe they will be living in reservations like in the highlands in the future in 30, 40 years. And that's, yeah, it's very difficult to stop this process as, yeah. And here also a lot of, let's say, political and economic interests involved in Papua. Yeah, and so it's very hard to solve this conflict. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Patrick. And then, Pak Professor Ismail, you have also 3 questions in 3 minutes. Thank you.
3 questions, 3 minutes is hard to respond because the questions are very big. And I need, how many hours I need to respond those questions? I think I need to write a book to respond this, inshallah. May Allah bless with this. But primarily with the first question I was asked about the normativeness of religion, how it is related to our modern times. My quick question, actually, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be speaking for other religions as well, but for Islam, I think we shouldn't call Islam as a static religion. It is very, very living religion, live. It's alive. When we say it's alive, static explanation are not helping for us. Of course, there are rules and regulations, and there are axiomatic things for Islam. You know, we all can go and study what are the axiomatical statements and propositions from Quran. But the rest of the understanding are built up over those axiomatic statements and which are live. And you know, when we say there is no God but the God, in the time of Rasulullah, It was very clear at the time, but within this century, people have developed, for example, isbat wajib al-wujud, demonstration for the existence of God, argumentations about the existence of God. In the 1st century, 2nd century AH, after Hijrah, 3rd century after Hijrah. But now we are in the 15th century after Hijrah, and we are still developing living concepts, living propositions, living argumentations. So I think the main point I like to try to make, why? Because Islam relates to human life. Why it relates to people of Manado, and why it relates to people of Africa, why it relates to American people, Antarctica, Southwest, East, doesn't matter. Islam relates to problems of our current currencies, our current problems, current needs and tendencies. So there's only one thing. We may call Islam as a living experience. We shouldn't take Islam as a normative one, dogmatic one. Even the dogma in the time of Aristotle didn't exactly mean the static one. We have the ground, it means ground. When you have a ground, you can develop anything over it. So as long as one has the ground of thinking, then the rest should be living. Every time we need to refresh, not to reform, refresh and revive. And the revival of the thoughts are the most important thing in that case. When, for example, the second question to me was how the fatwas are related to AI. Well, if you take Islamic law and Islamic jurisprudence like a do's and don'ts, it is very compatible with the AI. You can teach the AI, okay, these are do's and these are don't do's, okay? This right, this wrong, this right, this wrong. Okay, AI will learn this. But this is not Islam. Islamic jurisprudence is not this one. Again, this is a living phenomena. You have to adjust the needs and understanding of your time, your life. Life of the Manadon person. I see some Manadon friends here, and he or she has to understand what her needs, tendencies, as a living, refreshed life every day, every day. But if you take it like a static orders, if you see the Islam as orders, Islam is not only orders. Orders are part of it. When we understand fatwa, you know the definition of the fatwa, actually, the fatwa is given by Imam and Mufti at the time, living experience. And he takes the statements of the main arguments, and produce new statement for you, for that time. Now and here, presence of the thought. The most important thing to understand Islam in this way about the fiqh, usul fiqh, fatwa, it is for your own sake. You know the definition of fiqh by Imam Azam, Abu Hanifa, knowing goodness for yourself and knowing something bad for yourself. Your ma laha wa ma alayha. So thirdly, when the professor asked about the critical thinking, how we can learn, I think the critical thinking is sourced out by Quran Hakim itself. And Rasulullah teaches his companion Muaz bin Jabal, use your reason, check it what is set in the text, and to try to understand by your implementation. Sometimes we are mistaking as Muslims. Implementation is like ordering. I think most of the political problems comes from there. Orders, find the order. What is the order from the... No, it is living experience. Muslim at Nusantara will find their way for finding the best compatible understanding of the Quran by peace and by sakina, bir rawaha. When we look at those things, actually, this is the Quranic methodology we have to reproduce. Reproducing Quran Hakim, we have one example from Turkey. You might know his name, Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. He has a collection of Risale-i Nur. And in Risale-i Nur, he keeps saying, use your reason, use your rationale to produce the concepts, produce the statements, proposition, and the arguments for the needs of your time. Zeitgeist, you find the spirit of your time. find the needs of your time. When you look at this methodology, I have here 5D thinking project. Some of my friends are actually developing internationally about the 5D thinking, how to use analogical reason, phenomenological reason, and reasoning is the base for Muslim. When you call the mu'min, which is different than, slightly different than Muslim. Muslim is identity. Patrick knows best on that. You know, you use the identity, nationality, this. But mu'min is a quality of thinking, quality of assertment, quality of assertion. So being mu'min is a...
1 minute.
Okay. I will end it up this. In 5D thinking, we need to recognize the being mu'min is the process of production of the arguments. It has its sides with the statements. We need to be clear, distinct, and to produce the meaningful statements which are relate and connects us to our daily life. There is no Islam for me, for myself, which is lived by the others. It is not my problem how the others believe and how the others think. Everyone is free to their choice, you know. So my space should be filled by those productions of the argumentation, which is too long subject, so I will kind of wrap it up here. Terima kasih.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Give applause for every speakers. Actually, we only have limited time, so because time is moving, and then I hope all talk from the speakers can stimulate us to produce many topics of research in terms of interdisciplinary approach. Ya. Thank you very much Pak Jim yang sudah standby di Emory. I hope we see you in November ya. We can have coffee and talk with students, and thank you very much Pak Patrick and Pak Hacinebioglu. Thank you very much. And then there will be a gift or certificate from organizer. Could you please Pak Direktur atau Pak Wadir yang akan menyampaikan? Ya, oke. Pak Jim, I will send you a certificate, or maybe I can see you in November ya.
Inshallah bulan November
Thank
ya.
you very much. Yeah. See you.
Thank you all. Thank you to my colleagues and speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum. Yeah, thank you everybody. And I give the next session to the Master of Ceremony, and please apologize if there is something that not convenient during the session. From me, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Prof. J.M.
Waalaikumsalam
Muslim,
warahmatullahi
Min.
wabarakatuh. Yes, okay. We are waiting for you really to begin our session today. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our last session, and after this session, especially for plenary session, then we would like to close formally this seminar, and for those who have time, we invite you to have free time. But unfortunately, not everybody can be facilitated by committee because our facilitating you, or our time to facilitating you is tomorrow, Friday, in the morning, especially for the registered participants. But for foreign participants, especially for the speakers and some participants, we have already provided special tour guide on special facility to have city tour in Manado. You know, Manado is one of the beautiful cities in Indonesia. Then we are obliged to promote to you. Even I'm not Manadese. I'm not from Manado, but it is important for us to promote Manado to you all. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Pak Nuryaman, are you here or another session? You will be here. Or just here? No session, no other session. Okay. Okay. Thank you. For these sessions, we have really two languages. The first is English, and the second is Arabic, because one of our speakers come from Arab countries, and one of our speakers is coming from our neighbor. This is close neighbor really, because we have similarities, especially in language, Bahasa Melayu and Bahasa Indonesia. Malay, yeah? Malay, this is, let's say, what we call brother or brother-in-law with Indonesian language. So this is Malay word and Malay language. Okay, for Malaysia, we are going to talk about Al-Wasat principles and its practice in the governments of Malaysia. It includes about how the standardization of halal food and how to translate halal in everyday's life concerning Muslim rights, especially in Malaysia. And will be with us Professor Sharifah Hayati binti Syed Ismail. Sharifah Hayati binti Syed Ismail, and now she is on site. Hello, Prof. Sharifah.
Yes, hello, hi.
Yes,
Assalamualaikum, Professor, Dr. J.M. Muslimin, and the right speakers.
Yes, you may introduce yourself, because I'm sorry if I'm mistaken to introduce you. I'm afraid of this. Then please, short of your introduction, you might introduce to the audience. And we have here some participants, of course, from Manado, outside Manado, from Jakarta, and from Yogyakarta, and from Malang, and from Mataram. Some of them also from Solo, and some other cities in Indonesia. And we have also speakers and participants from abroad. This is here Professor Ziegenhain from Freiburg University and President University. Freiburg University in Germany, President University in Bekasi, and we have also researcher from Japan, will come soon. And this is beside me, this is Dr. Salim Muhammad Al-Kushli from Tripoli University. So he will speak in front of us in Bahasa Arab or in Arabic language. And then almost everybody now pay attention to your speech. So please, you begin. You have time 15 minutes. Please introduce yourself for 1 and 2 minutes, and afterward present your articles. The floor is yours, Professor Sharifah.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, our moderator for this afternoon session, Professor J.M. Muslimin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, let me first congratulate the organizers, especially the Graduate School of UIN Sharif Hidayatullah, and also postgraduate program of AIAN Manado and other collaborators for this very important international colloquium on interdisciplinary Islamic studies. I'm happy also to be with everyone here this afternoon, although not on site but online. I would like to also to congratulate the rest of the speakers in this session, which is Dr. Salim and Dr. Muhammad Marakibi. From Tripoli University, Libya, and also from Universitas Islam International, Indonesia. Let me begin by introducing a bit about myself. As mentioned just now by Professor Muslimin, I am a professor from Department of Siyasat Sharia, which is Islamic Political Studies from Academy of Islamic Studies, University of Malaya. I believe many of you, including the participants and the presenters, have a good relationship with University of Malaya, especially the Academy of Islamic Studies. I would love to share the topic of my presentation this afternoon is the Al-Wasat principle and its implications for halal sustainable governance in Malaysia. Okay, and to focus on this topic, I will look into. Can everyone see my sharing my slides? Let me confirm that
Yes,
first.
it is clear. It
Yes?
is clear.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Good.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. I will focus my presentation on four things, which is what is the principles and concept of al-wasat that we are talking about moderate Muslim. So we will look into this concept that have a meaning, a clear meaning and a very direct meaning about moderation, and more to that, not only moderation, but moderation also means al-khiyar, al-a'immah, or khairul ummah, the best and equitable fairness society. Yeah, I will come to that later. The second things that I will focus on is the principles and how it relates to Malaysian policies. And the third one is our theme, economic activities, and we'll look at economic activities through halal governance in Malaysia. And the last, the final aspect that I will touch on is Al-Wasat principles and its implications for sustainable halal governance in Malaysia, which I will touch on what are the innovations introduced by the government to boost the development of halal for equitable and fairness, not only Muslim society but also non-Muslim societies, not only in Malaysia but abroad, global societies. Okay, I have to share this very quick because I only have 15 minutes, but don't worry, the slide has already been shared to the moderator, Prof. J.M. Muslim. So everyone, please later you can do further readings about it. Yeah. So to understand about the concept of al-wasat is an Arabic word derived from Arabic word wasata. Al-wasat means excellent, moderate, just, and equitable, and it is also highlighted in one of the Malaysian policy known as Al-Wasatiyah. Our approach government policy during the former Prime Minister, which is Najib Tun Razak, introduced during that time, 2010. Okay, the term Al-Wasatiyah, AW is a shortened abbreviation to Al-Wasat. Yeah? The term Al-Wasat can be referred to the original word in Arabic language, which is wasat or wasat, which means to be the middle, while Al-Awsat is the middle. And according to Wahbah al-Zuhaili, stated that Al-Wasatiyah بمعنى التوسيط وهو أن يجعل الشيء في الوسط والوسط اسم لما بين طرفين الشيء وهو المعتدل أو ما بين الجيد والرد كما جاء في صحيح الجوهري والأوسط الشيء أفضله وخياره وأعدله يعني العاد الخيار and الأوسط في الشيء. I'll try to share my next slide, but it doesn't move. Huh? Okay then.
Napa Dwi?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
okay.
okay, yeah.
So in the context of Ummah, there are three main definitions of al-wasat or wasatiyah. The first is just and equitable or al-ad, and the second is mu'tadil, which we said just now, which is moderate and balanced. And the third is al-khair wal-afdal, the best and chosen, with the intention of not being excessive, no extremes, no beyond the limit, unbalanced division, unfair, bias, discrimination, or in other words, al-khiyar. And this is can be referred in Surah Al-Baqarah, آية 143 وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. And I bold the word أمة وسطا, just and balanced ummah. So in Al-Quran we refer, for example, to Surah, which is Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 143, Ayah 143. The term used in the Al-Quran is أمة وسطا, and the other term used in Al-Quran is Khaira Ummah, which is Surah Al-Imran, Ayah 1110. Kuntum Khaira Ummatin. We are the best Ummah from the perspective of Islam. And according to Ibn Manzur, Al-Wasatiyah means to be fair or just, is to be unbiased, impartial, or balanced. Khairul Umuri Awsatuha, as Prophet Muhammad said in the Hadith. And this is already explained before. So it also means adhere to the truth according to Ibn Manzur. The Muslim scholars are of the opinion that al-wasat refers to moderation and just people who refrain from committing major sins and abstain from any action that damages dignity. So we can understand that there are several principles, including according to Ibn Miskawih, which is 4 principles highlighted according to Ibn Miskawih in his famous book, Al-Akhlaq, in his famous book Al-Akhlaq, which is also referred by Imam Al-Ghazali. There are 4 principles of Al-Wasat or Al-Wasatiyah, which is Al-Iffah, Al-Ad, Al-Hikmah, and Al-Shaja'ah. So from these principles, main elements highlighted by Ibn Miskawih, I try to understand what are the Al-Wasatiyah and how these Al-Wasat or Al-Wasatiyah from the government, Malaysian government policies, and how it implement and give implications to the policies, including the halal governance in Malaysia. So we have highlighted 4 principles, which is dignity and self-motivation, al-ad, justice and equilibrium, or al-hikmah, wisdom, and also professionalism, and al-shaja'ah, bravery, courage, and innovation, the bravery to innovate new good, whether in when we talk about halal, it's not only food but also product and services. We look at Al-Wasat principle and Malaysian policy. So in Malaysia, the moderation or Al-Wasat or Al-Wasatiyah is introduced in 2010, known as Al-Wasatiyah, government approach. It considered as government approach and highlighted in Prime Minister's speeches during that time and continued until today, even it is not highlighted as Wasatiyah because today's government highlighted the policy of Malaysia Madani, but the elements and principle of Al-Wasat or Wasatiyah is continued in the policies. Besides this Wasatiyah policy, there are other 6 major frameworks that enable Al-Wasat to flourish and become one of the government's focus in the policies, programs conducted by the government. It includes first and foremost our framework in the country is that the constitution, the federal constitution, the Federal Constitution's Article 3 provides that Islam is the religion of the Federation, but other religions can also be practiced safely and peacefully in any part of the Federation. So this is the very basic of any Islamic values, any good values to be inculcated in the country, including in government policies. The second is the inculcation of Islamic value policy, or in Bahasa we call it as Dasar Penerapan Nilai-Nilai Islam. The third one is the provision of human development education policies, including under the Malaysia Plan and our Vision 20 now is 2050 and the NKRA. Okay, the fourth that is closely related to Al-Wasatiyah is National Integrity Plan, and the fifth is Islam Hadari, and the sixth, which is now under the Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, is Malaysia Madani. So all those 6 major policies and framework of the country allowing these Al-Wasat policies, approaches to continue in the country, and therefore one of the things that we want to highlight about Al-Wasatiyah is halal governance in Malaysia. And when we talk about the implications of Al-Wasatiyah for halal governance, sustainable halal governance in Malaysia, halal governance in Malaysia has already established since 1974, and up to today, there are several and numerous modifications, innovations, challenges faced by the country, by the agencies, especially JAKIM, Department of Islamic Development Malaysia, which is the main authority of the country on halal matters and halal governance. And this is more during this digital age, during this digital age where the main highlight of the people is customer interest. The main highlight of governance during this age is customer satisfaction. So to that, halal agencies have provided many channels, online channels, websites, and things like that to cater the need of the public. So one of the interests of the digital era is public satisfaction and public interest must not be forgotten. It's not only top-down governance, but also bottom-up governance, whereby the bottom-up governance means the public interest, public input, putting into highly consideration by the government. JAKIM and the State Islamic Religious Departments are the only government-approved halal certification bodies. I am zooming into the aspect of halal certifications, rather than other aspects. We know that halal governance means a lot, including the export and import of halal products, but my focus is more on halal and logo halal certifications. Malaysian halal governance is also open. We have a good collaboration with Indonesia, with our neighboring country, with Singapore, with Australia, with Brunei, Darussalam, and up to today, halal certification, Malaysian halal certification is recognized by 88 countries. And the scale of halal industry in Malaysia, in terms of halal export, were valued at 59 billion in 2022, and it is accounting to be more than this in 2030, up to 70 billion in 2030, or even more than that, And Malaysia also recorded a total of 1,876 enterprises exporting halal products since 2019, with 1,430 companies being small and simple companies, And halal certification not only serves religious purposes, but has also transformed the halal governance practices of the regulators and industry. And as a result, halal certification has been used as a religious identity, religious of quality, marketing strategy, product standard, and compliance among companies. These are the evolutions of halal governance in Malaysia since 1974, and now we have halal industry master plan to 2030. So these are how the halal governance evolved in the country since 1974. Halal governance in digital age, I've mentioned just now that the main aspect of halal governance in digital age is to meet the interests of the people. And one area is by looking into what are their complaints to the government in relates to halal certifications. And with that, according to my research with my team, few years back, we managed to compile what are the complaints by the people, by the customer. So we found 5 major main complaints about halal certification governance or halal certificate management, which is around up to today, not only to 2018, but these are the numbers of public complaints around this time, which is before the COVID-19, So this is before COVID-19 data. So we can see that there are 5 complaints actually, include delayed management response, cumbersome processes in managing halal certification, expensive fees, doubtful about halal status, and confused in use of halal logo. So these are the main complaints by the customers around this. And up to today, these are also complaints by the customers, still a complaint. And I will share with you what are the action taken by the government, by the agencies, especially JAKIM, which is the authority for halal certification. These are the innovation, and we hope that with the element of al-wasat, which means innovations, which also means professionalism, the JAKIM, especially as a central authority of the country, did some new innovations to answering the public complaints, and public interest, which is we follow the maslahah of the people maslahah, the benefit and the interest of the people. So what are the innovations? There are 11 innovations from these 5 major complaints of the public. In terms of delayed management, the government, which is JAKIM authority, has reduced the processing time for halal certificate applications, which from 50 days to 1 month to 30 days. And through our readings and through our discussion with authority, the JAKIM authority, JAKIM itself, is in a process to reduce to give more quicker solution to the halal certificate application, which is less than 30 days. Yeah. Second is assigning several officers, personnel, staff at the corporate cooperative unit to manage complaints. And the third innovation is that introducing smart halal application, whereby this is digital era, where the applications, everything is using website and online, and also to make things easier to JAKIM to do the follow through and follow up action. Whereas the second complaint about cumbersome processes, JAKIM also established My e-Halal system to make it easy for registered industries to verify the progress of their halal certificate application. They have online services for application. They have provided, the JAKIM provided online application apps also to verify whether their application is successful or not through an application of My e-Halal system, and provided various online and offline public complaints channels also. Besides that, JAKIM also operates special halal counter at the Putrajaya to meet the and to meet any interest and complaint or any input suggestions by the public. Besides that, JAKIM also initiate Malaysia Halal Certification Immediate Initiative programs, and this is ongoing program from time to time. For the third complaint about expensive fees, JAKIM also suggests to avoid any middlemen, any consultants to apply halal certificate for industries, to avoid any increasing fees. Yeah. JAKIM reveals the halal certificate processing fees to the industry. This is openly and without any closure, so public can see what are the fees, publicly open, what are the fees that are provided by the authority. Okay, and also a Malaysian Halal Certification Procedure or Manual online. The fourth complaint is about the confirmation of halal status, whether the product is halal or not. Yeah, is also in the various website, and also double the number of inspection officers to form the task. And the final complaint, which is the fifth complaint, major complaint, is doubt regarding the usage of the halal logo, and this also can be checked through Smart Halal and Verify Halal, which can be used and scanned through smartphone and through the product code. Yeah, so make things easier for everyone to check whether this product is halal or not. You just need to have these apps, which is Smart Halal or Verify Halal. Just scan code, and from there you can get whether this halal, this product is a halal product or non-halal product. Yeah. And organize public awareness programs. For example, JAKIM makes so many programs to bring awareness to the public on how to apply, how to use the apps and things like that. Okay, So let me conclude my presentation. I'll bring the concept and principles, and taking the four principles of Al-Wasat according to Ibn Miskawi, whereby we need to have what it means to have moderate society, what it means to have Al-Wasatiyah in government. It means that it needs to have innovations. It means that we must apply the fairness and equitable policies to the public. We must listen to the public in this digital era, because public is one of the component in good governance in Islam as well, in Siyasa Syariah as well as in Idara al-Islamiyah. So therefore, we look in focus to halal governance, and we found that in many complaints, there are 5 major complaints to halal activities, halal management, and with that 5 complaints, we come to see that the agencies, the JAKIM, has try its best to perform new innovations, especially in the digital era, in the digitalization era, whereby halal verification, smart halal, e-halal, is introduced and established by the government. So I have highlighted the 5 complaints with the 11 innovations, and hope with that we can see that this halal governance in Malaysia and in other countries can be more cherished and more developed, and give a strong belief to the customer that using halal logo and halal certifications is not about halal, is also about quality. With that, thank you very much, Prof. JM Muslimin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Sharifa, for your enlightening speech. And next, we want to hear, let's say, 10 minutes until 12 minutes, the speech from our beloved brother, Dr. Salim Muhammad Al-Kushli. Salim Muhammad Al-Kushli studied in the University of Tripoli, Faculty of Economics, and then he continued his study in UIN Malang, East Java, with the concentration of Islamic economics, and graduated from School for Graduate Studies, Pasca Sarjana, UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, and his dissertation is also on economics. أخونا العزيز الدكتور سالم محمد الكشلي يود أن يبلغ أو يلقي أمامنا التقديم تحت العنوان الاقتصاد الشعبي بالمقارنة بالأحوال الاقتصادية في بعض الدول في الشرق الأوسط. وكما علمنا أن أخانا سالم هو متخرج من جامعة طرابلس في كلية الاقتصاد، وواصل دراسته في مالان، ثم تمت الدكتوراه في يعني Pasca Sarjana, Sekolah Pasca Sarjana Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. وله من الوقت 10 دقائق تقريبا إلى 12 دقيقة، فلتفضل مشكورا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بداية أتقدم بالشكر والجزير للأخوة المنظمين الملتقى العلمي، فلهم جزير الشكر والاحترام، كما أتقدم بالشكر كل المشاركين والحاضرين. مبادئ وممارسات الاقتصاد الإسلامي في العالم الإسلامية. الاقتصاد الإسلامي كما نعرف أنه هو ممارسات في الأمة الإسلامية، هو اقتصاد مجموعة من الأصول العامة التي نستخرجها من القرآن والسنة، وفي البناء الاقتصادي الذي يقام على أساس تلك الأصول بحسب كل بيئة وكل عنصر، ونقصد بالأمة الإسلامية هنا الدول الإسلامية المعاصرة والتي تدين بالإسلام دينا رسميا، وشعوبها. هنا سوف نتطرق إلى الاقتصاد الشعبي المرتبط بهذا الدين لكل الشعوب في الديانة الإسلامية وممارستها وفق القيم والعقائد والأحكام التي يؤمن بها. وسوف نتطرق لأخذ مثال على الاقتصاد الشعبي في أندونيسيا كنقطة محددة. بداية يمكن القول بأن تاريخ ظهور الاقتصاد الإسلامي كان بداية منذ بداية التشريع، منذ حياة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام. كان نموذجا للتطبيق في كافة والقواعد الإسلامية، ومنها القواعد المرتبطة بالنظام الاقتصاد الإسلامي الذي اتبعه الخلفاء الراشدون رضي الله عنهم، كما في كافة المعاملات والقضايا المعاصرة الاقتصادية. وفي نهاية هذا القرن التاسع عشر الميلادي بداية لعلماء الأمة يتجهون إلى الاقتصاد الإسلامي والتتبع به الباحثون، حيث تتبرر في علوم الاقتصاد الإسلامي المعاصرة، وجلها في أعمال المجامع الإسلامية والمجامع الفقهية، وخاصة بعد ظهور المصارف الإسلامية وزيادة القوة على يد العلماء المعاصرين. إذن هذه يتمتع هذا الاقتصاد بخصائص كثيرة، إنه لا يشابه الأنظمة الاقتصادية الأخرى كالرأسمالية والاعتماد عليها في القواعد، يعتمد على النظام في صياغته في مبادئه وكافة القواعد والتشريعات. إذن يرتبط الاقتصاد الإسلامي بمجموعة من القيم والأخلاق التي يحافظ عليها ديننا، مما هذه الصفات الحميدة التي هي الصدق والأمانة ومراعاة لكافة الحلال والحرام في كافة الأنشطة الاقتصادية. إذن يعد هذا الاقتصاد من الواقع الذي يهتم بالطبيعة التي يهتم بها في الحالة الاجتماعية والحالة الاقتصادية، خاصة بعد ازدياد الأفراد في حاجتهم لهذا الاقتصاد، مما يتمتع به هذا الاقتصاد الإسلامي له علاقة في العلوم الاقتصادية الإسلامية بعلم فقه المعاملات. إذن النظام الإسلامي له صلة وثيقة في خاصة في الزكاة، وثم في فقه العبادات والنفقات والفرائض، وثم الأسرة، بناء على هذه الأبواب التي تشمل العقود والتصرفات المالية كعقد البيع والإجارة والمرابحة والرهن والكفالة وغيرها من العقود التي تحتاج إليها الشركات في الوقف وغيرها والوصية من ذلك هذه العقود في التصرفات المالية. إذن من هذه المبادئ نقول مبدأ الملكية العامة ومبدأ العدالة الاقتصادية ومبدأ التكافل الاجتماعي. إذن من هذه المبادئ الثلاثة نجد أنه يختلف هذا الاقتصاد على النظام الرأسمالي وفي نوعيته في الملكية، ويقرر اختلافا في وجهة نظره الاقتصاد الرأسماليين، يؤمن لهم شكل الفرد للملكية للاقتصاد الذي يلغي الملكية الاشتراكية الخاصة للأفراد نهائيا. مبدأ الحرية الاقتصادية المقيدة أن الرأسمالية تعمل على تحقيق مبدأ الحرية للفرد، وهي حرية الاستهلاك وحرية الإنتاج، وهذه الحرية مطلقة لا تحددها حدود ولا تحكمها قيود، ولكن الاقتصاد الإسلامي يضمن لها الحرية تحت غطاء مجموعة من القيم. إذا مبدأ العدالة هو مبدأ في الاقتصاد الإسلامي جزء من العدالة، يحقق في مجتمعنا تكافل بين الجوانب الحياة الإنسانية والاجتماعية والاقتصادية. إذن لدينا مبدأ الرابع وهو مبدأ التكافل الاجتماعي، حيث يضمن الاقتصاد الإسلامي اقتصاد طوعي بين الأفراد والمجتمع، مما يضمن لهم آلية في التصرف في الأموال والزكاة والصدقات وغيرها. مكونات هذا الاقتصاد له مؤسسات اقتصادية وله مؤسسات مالية وتشريعية، فلذلك وهو جزء يتمثل من وحدة الاقتصاد الهادفة في الربح، سواء كانت على شكل وحدات فردية أو على شركات تعددية أو خاصة أو قطاع عام أو حكومي. من ضمن هذه المؤسسات التي تشمل هذه القطاعات المصارف والتأمين ومؤسسات الاستثمار وشركات التوظيف التي تحتاج إلى توظيف الأموال. لدينا سلطات اقتصادية هي تتحكم في الاقتصاد بحيث تحافظ وتراقب على هذا القطاع من أجهزة وتوجيهات، منها أجهزة الرقابة على المال، ومنها أسواق النقد والأسواق في بيت المال كما كان في بداية الصرف في العهود السابقة. بذلك كانت سلطات تشريعية مثل الوحدات الحكومية التي تتولى وضع القوانين وبعض التشريعات حتى تسن وتحكم بها الملكية والحقوق للأموال. نظرا للمؤسسات الاقتصادية التعليمية لها دور كبير في معرفة هذا الاقتصاد الإسلامي، منها المدارس والجامعات والكليات التي تهتم بهذا العلم في تخريج الطلاب من العنصر البشري الذي يحتاج لإدارة هذا الاقتصاد الإسلامي. نطرق الأمثلة على أدوات الاقتصاد الإسلامي، فهي أدوات التمويل كما في المؤسسات المصرفية، فهي المضاربة والمرابحة والمشاركة وبيع السلم، وكثير منها مثل عقود الإجارة وعقود مزارعة وغيرها التي غير موجودة في مؤسساتنا المالية. منها استثمارية كالمضاربة التي تحقق الربح في توزيعه بين الأرباح ولا يوزع هذا الربح إلا بعد إعادة رأس المال. ونجد أن المرابحة هي أداة قريبة للتجارة العامة التي يتم عنها تداول ما يملك البشر بشراء بعض السلع والأساسيات الضرورية التي يحتاج سواءها شراؤها إما تكون نقدا أو بالتقسيط. بذلك تسهل هذه العملية للمرابحة الإسلامية. والمشاركة هي اشتراك أكثر من شخص أو جهد في قيمة معينة من المال، تكون ملكية العمل والأرباح والخسائر موزعة عليهم جميعا سواء. بيع السلم هو الذي أن يسلم المشترك رأس مال البائع حتى في مجلس العقد قبل أن يسلم السلعة التي اشتراها، على أن يعطيه إياها البائع بعد تحديد أوصافها. بعض التطبيقات المعاصرة في الاقتصاد الإسلامي منها نجدها في البنوك والفروع الإسلامية الخاصة في البنوك، والتي تستمد منها الشركات والمؤسسات بالتأمين الإسلامي وصناديق التأمين، ومنها التكافل الخاصة وتحقيق الرعاية الاجتماعية تحت هذه الصناديق الاستثمارية التي هي أدوات من أدوات التمويل الإسلامي التي تمارس عليها الصيغ الإسلامية بشكل منظم في الوحدات الاقتصادية التي لها هادفة للربح وتحقيق هذا المستوى. هناك بعض الوحدات للربح مثل الوقف الخيري أو الوصايا لها خصوصية خاصة، وهناك أسواق المالية التي يتم فيها تداول مجموعة من الأوراق والصكوك الإسلامية تحت هيئات المحاسبة والمراجعة في المؤسسات المالية الإسلامية. إذن الاقتصاد الشعبي في أندونيسيا نحدد هذا المثال لأن الدول الإسلامية كثيرة، وحددنا دولة أندونيسيا هو نظام اقتصادي يعتمد على اقتصاد الشعب كقوة، فهو في كافة اقتصاده ونشاطه يقوم عليه بعض الناس من خلال إدارة هذه الموارد الاقتصادية والاجتماعية في مختلف مستوياتها، مما يحتاج إلى إدارة وسيطرة عليها. من أهمها أنه يكون الشعب قادر على التحكم في الاقتصاد الوطني بذلك ككل، لأن المشاكل الاقتصادية تأتي من الناس أنفسهم، في سبيل المثال البطالة ونقص التوعية في الموارد البشرية على سبيل المثال. ومساهمة الشعب الاقتصادية في الانتعاش تمثل بحوالي 50-60% من الاقتصاد الأندونيسي، بذلك تكون الشركات الصغيرة والمتوسطة هي التي تدعم النشاط الاقتصادي في الشعبي. ظهور الاقتصاد الشعبي له فترة طويلة، كما كان بونج هذا هو الدافع وراء هذا النظام الشعبي في أندونيسيا في 1933 ميلادي. بصفته رجل الدولة في مؤسسة جمهورية أندونيسيا كتب مقال بعنوان الاقتصاد الشعبي في أندونيسيا. من هذه الأهداف الرئيسية للنظام الشعبي يعمل على توفير العيش وتوفير الضمان الاجتماعي، والعمل على توزيع الملكية وإجراءات التعليم في مجانا للأطفال دون استثناء، وأن يكون لكل مواطن حرية في إيجاد اقتصاد، وأن يصبح عضوا فيها عضوا مساهما. تنفيذا للاقتصاد الشعبي هناك بعض القوانين والمواد التي تنظم جهد الأفراد وجهد الجماعات وجهد الدولة في تخضع للسيطرة لهذه الموارد الموجودة لكي تشتغل بشكل طبيعي في وتحقق الرفاهية الممتازة لدوران الاقتصاد الشعبي. إذن من مبادئ هذا الاقتصاد مكوناته الأساسية تماشيا مع المواد التي ذكرناها في الفقرات في القانون الأندونيسي 27 من دستوره 1945 في الحق على الحصول وظيفة ومعيشة كإنسان. بذلك كل فرد من أفراد المجتمع يحتاج إلى هذا الاقتصاد وبشكل منظم بمشاركة في عملية الإنتاج. بذلك قد يكون الفرد هو جزء من أجزاء هذا الاقتصاد وبشكل جماعات أو أفراد، وتنظم هذه المشاركة في منافع الإنتاج كما حث عليها الاقتصاد الإسلامي وحث عليها في القانون الأندونيسي في 1945 لتفعيل ضوابط تسيير الاقتصاد الوطني. إذا من خصائص هذا النظام الشعبي له خصائص كثيرة: آلية العدالة في السوق، ثم القدرة على خلق تنمية مستدامة، وثم توفير ضمانات للمجتمع حيث يحصل على تسهيلات وضمانات تيسيرية لتسيير بعض أعماله في هذا الاقتصاد الشعبي، وتحقيق لحقوق المستهلك للتعامل في هذا الاقتصاد بشكل آخر وبإنصاف. إذن من مزاياه أيضا نجد أن الاقتصاد الإسلامي يتمتع باقتصاد شعبي من قاعدة مكونة من الفقراء وبعض المعاملات القانونية التي تحتاج إلى دوران الأموال في الاقتصاد، بحيث يسهل الاقتصاد الإسلامي دوران هذه العملية في المساواة الاجتماعية. إذن نجد ما يتيح للفرصة للنظام أو الحكومة في المزيد من الاهتمام بهذا النظام من خلال ممارسته المتنوعة، كما نعرف أنه استخدام النظام كوسيلة في تحفيز الأنشطة الاقتصادية والإنتاجية، ويمكن أيضا المعاملات في عملات الإنتاج والتوزيع والاستهلاك وغيرها. إذن لابد لكل نظام اقتصادي له عيوب. إذن نتطرق إلى بعض العيوب التي كانت تحديات للاقتصاد الشعبي. من هذه العيوب الغير مألوفة توزيع الأموال بين الناس. لا نستطيع القول أن نوزع الأرباح إلا بشكل منظم تحت إدارة هذا الاقتصاد، ويمكن أن يتسبب في إجراء بعض المشاريع الصغرى والمتوسطة الغير قادرة على إدارة نفسها، بذلك تحدد لهم ضوابط وبعض التشريعات حتى يتمكنوا من دوران هذه الأموال وتوزيعها بشكل عادل وفهم الناس للاستثمار. أحيانا تغيب بعض الفقرات عليهم يشكل عليهم بطء في الاقتصاد، لتدعم الحكومة بشكل مباشر دوران هذه العملية، ويصبح دور الحكومة في النهاية هو المسيطر والمنظم على هذه الاقتصاديات الشعبية. يتطلب النظام الاقتصادي إشرافا صارما، لأنه إذا تم تخفيف الرقابة عليه يكون عرضة للفساد، أيضا كمثل المؤسسات الحكومية يتطلب عليها الرقابة لبعض الأنشطة. إذن من وفق الاقتصاد الإسلامي، الاقتصاد الشعبي في أندونيسيا، فهو اقتصاد يتمتع بازدهار وعدالة. لذلك نجد أن الحياة الناس من مقاصدها هي مقاصد قيم الإسلام والأخلاق والتبادل والأمانة. نجد أن الرفاهية في الحياة الاقتصادية مبنية على الأعراف والأخلاق الإسلامية. إذن نجد أن الاقتصاد الإسلامي في أندونيسيا يعمل منذ فترة طويلة في المؤسسات وتصميما لتحديد تعاونيات كأساس تطبيقي في هذه تحقيق العدالة والمساواة. يحول الاقتصاد الإسلامي إلى المؤسسات التعاونية من خلال المتوقع أن يكون بين المؤسسات لجعل النظام الإسلامي كاقتصاد شعبي، تحقيقا لذلك بالنظر إلى الإمكانيات الهائلة للتعاونيات التي تصل بها إلى أصغر طبقات المجتمع. وشاكرين على حسن انتباهكم وشكرا. شكرا بروف المسلمين.
أيوه. نشكر فضيلة الدكتور سالم محمد الكشلي أحسن الشكر. فكما قلنا على أنه تحدث عن الاقتصاد الشعبي في إندونيسيا، وقليل تحدث مقارنة بالاقتصاد الشعبي في البلدان الأخرى، وبالخصوص في بعض البلدان في الشرق الأوسط. Now we have interactive dialogue, and the time is for the audience. There are two kinds of audience. We have on-site audience or online audience, and we have also offline audience. So is there any audience from the outside audience who has special question, comments, or critical remarks for both of speakers? Please, you may ask directly from your mic. No one? Okay. Then we ask here offline audience. For the first is Professor Sharifa, has talk on the principle of wasatiyah, especially in halal management in Malaysia. And the second is, it is also about Islamic economics from our beloved Dr. Salim Muhammad Al-Kushli. It is about what we call it as people principle of economics, or principle of economics in Indonesian society, in comparison with some states in the Middle East. Yeah. Okay. I hope, Professor Ismail, this is our philosophy. So you have critical remarks for both first speaker and the second speaker, I think, because it seems to me that from early morning, you have something here to express, yeah? But our time is limited, so we cannot give you more time. Then now we have more time for you. Please, you give special remark for both Malaysian presenter and Libyan presenter, and I know you speak also both English and Arabic. Okay, please, Professor Ismail. Yeah.
Actually, my first question, I wasn't planning to ask, but since you urged me, I like to ask about halal certificates in Malay and in Indonesia, in Turkey as well. In Turkey, we also are getting much halal certificates for many things, not only for meat and stuff. Now we start having the halal certificate for water. Water is halal, in fact, unless contrary proven. Something is halal. Dr. Salim will come to that point as well. Anything is halal in the nature unless it is proven contrary. So someone has to prove it's haram. Someone has to prove it's dirty. And my question goes like that. Actually, when we start calling everything is halal, and the halal table, halal food, halal clothes, it's nice. But there is a problem in there, because in the verse of the Quran, halal comes with tayyib. Not the Tayyip Erdogan, but it comes with the halal, with the quality of tayyib. I think our Ustaz mentioned about to continue to ask for something halal and the quality. I think quality is related to tayyib. So halal and tayyib should go together. But do you think it is causing some sort of problem as well? Not only for Muslim-wide, also for those who are non-Muslim. Because we are living in the societies, we have also non-Muslims. I understand the idea, I agree the idea. Calling something halal indicates there is something nice and goodness in it. But when we keep overemphasizing halal, are we not neglecting tayyib aside? And also, since we keep overemphasizing the halal certificates on those things, are we putting, especially in industry, she mentioned about the industry of halal, are we not also pushing something, some companies are paying to get these halal certificates, and maybe small companies and some other companies are not so much easy for having the halal companies. Are we not leaving them out, although they are also halal, although they are also ready for Muslim consumption? Because there is a problem, in the Jewish tradition, they have a kosher. But kosher has caused Jews to have conflict about these things. After a while, they said, okay, we are not listening anything about the kosher things. They leave the theology of Judaism, not only they left their God in some way or another, So is it not a conflict? So I'm asking this question for her, and then for Dr. Salim as well. In Libya, ahlan wa sahlan bi wahayyikum. And in Libya, for example, majority are Muslim. So, 99%, whatever, yeah. And when we have the Muslims in Libya, for example, similarly to halal things, when we talk about the Bunukul Islam, Bunukul Murabaha, Bankul Murabaha, are you calling them also Islamic banking in Libya? If you are calling them in Islamic banking, in Turkey, they are not called Islamic banking. People know they are trying to apply or implement the halal trading. So it's not only for food, for also trading as well, Dr. Salim. So I am wondering, when Libyan people, when they face, and also including Indonesian friends, orangas as well, but how they react, those banks in general, to think them they are purely in line with the Quranic hikmah, Quranic wisdom. The reason behind my question is that because Quranic wisdom is to be for everyone, and accessibility, sustainability, this and that. So when we see these Islamic banking works, they are great, I support them. If I have a chance, I always try to follow their action. But when we overemphasize those things, also once again, are we putting the trade, to separate the trade, Islamic and non-Islamic? And also in the experience, I'm sure in Libyan experience, in Turkey experience, I don't know, Indonesian experience, but they have only maybe 5-10% of the trade. So what are we doing? That's my question. Thank you very much for Salim and the doctor in the University of Malaya. Jazakallah, Muslimin.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Ismail from Istanbul University. Is there any question from the audience?
Okay, me. Ulfa.
Ulfa. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for my chance. To Professor Dr. Sharifah, my question is short. In the digital age, people can easily buy online. For example, me buying cosmetic and food, buyer don't know whether it is halal or not. How the Malaysian government overcomes this problem? Okay, to Dr. Salim, I want to ask you, what is gender equality and justice in terms of the economy in your country, in Libya? Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Now the questions. If there's still another question, okay, please. Yeah, okay, the third. Afterwards, Dr. Muhammad Adnan. Okay, this is the third. Okay, please.
Thank you very much, Prof. I am Hendrik. My question addressed to Professor Sharifah. Yeah. It is about halal certificate. Yeah. As we know, yeah, the authority who organized this halal certificate was MUI, yeah, and now the official government taken by religion ministry, yeah. How about in Malaysia? This halal certificate, yeah, organized by what? By the government or like here in Indonesia, yeah. And what is your opinion about which one is better, organized by MUI or by the official government? Thank you very much, Prof.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, this is the third and the fourth, please, Dr. Muhammad Adnan.
Okay, شكرا. السؤال موجه إلى سعادة دكتور سالم الكشلي الليبي بشأن الاقتصاد الإسلامي. توجه العالم إلى البلدان الإسلامية وبالخصوص البلدان في قارة أفريقيا، البلدان الإسلامية في قارة أفريقيا الشمال بما فيها المملكة العزيز الليبي والسودان ومصر. نحن كالأمة الإسلامية نرى وجوهنا تجاه الدول الإسلامية بما تعمل فيها بشأن الاقتصاد الإسلامي. الأنظار في بعض المسلمين مظاهر تتكلم أن الاقتصاد الإسلامي ليس بفارق كبير بالنسبة للاقتصاد التقليدي، حيث أنهم قالوا البلدان الإسلامية وبالخصوص في قارتكم الأفريقية الشمالية لم يكن مثيلا أو ممثلا بتطبيق الاقتصاد الإسلامي، وبخصوص بسبب حالتها الاقتصادية في حالة التدني بسبب الكثير من الدوافع. فالسؤال المطروح هي بشأن عدم الوثوق بعض المسلمين بمثابة لا فارق بين البنوك الإسلامية والبنوك التقليدية، حيث إن المنتهى هو نفس الممر. هذا هو، وعلاوة على ذلك ليس فيه دليلا ظاهرا أن الدول الإسلامية يعملون بالشريعة الاقتصاد الإسلامي لها تقدم في بلدانهم. هذا هو، ما هي المعوقات بين الاقتصاد الإسلامي كما شرحتم مع البلدان الإسلامية خاصة في القارة الأفريقية الذي أنتم فيها. هذا هو وشكرا.
Okay, thank you very much. The last question from Dr. Muhammad Adnan. And now we come back to our presenters. The first is Professor Sharifa. Professor Sharifa, did you hear some questions and comments very well?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Please, it is your time.
Yes, thank you so much for all the questions from the presenters, the offline presenters. Alhamdulillah, I'm happy. I'm trying my best to give answers from the Malaysian experience. First questions comes from Prof. Ismail. Thank you, Prof. Ismail. I agree with you that everyone also knows that when we talk about halal, it's not just about halal, which is in terms of slaughtering based on halal, not only alcoholic drink or ingredients, but halal also means tayyib, halalan tayyiban. So the aspect of tayyib here is also means that the product, the services, and the food, for example, is have several standards of quality, which is cleanliness, which is also we have halal kitchen, which is also means the ingredients, all ingredients is not harmful to health. Yeah, so the process of producing the product, yeah, the elements of al-amana means also halal services. Yeah, so this is not only agreed by the Muslims, but also non-Muslim nowadays. They look for these halal standards, including, for example, in finance sector, in economic sector. They're also now looking into the Islamic finance, for example. So in terms of halal certifications in Malaysia, for now, it is not compulsory to any industries, small, medium, and heavy industries, to go for halal certification. It is just a voluntary, which is encourageable to every industries to have these halal certifications and halal logo certified by our authority, which is Department of Islamic Development in Malaysia, or in short, JAKIM. So there also, however, an idea to put everything in compulsory, but it is under discussion by the government authorities. Yeah, but if the people understand that halal means good in every aspects, and halal now have a great market globally, many have looked that halal is one aspect of economic development to the industries, whereby the product and the services, especially products and foods, can not only cater to the Muslims but also non-Muslims, and non-Muslim product can also cater to Muslims population. So they see that this is a good opportunity for economic development. So halal again means not only in the aspect of halal what we understand, but also halal is a second aspect of halalan tayyiban, which means give emphasis on health matters, give emphasis on cleanliness matters and things like that. Yeah. So not to say that that there's a idea misunderstanding. I'm sorry. On that halal means only for Muslims, but when they understand that halal means equality, I'm sorry. Sorry, everyone. So if we have a clear understanding about what is halal all about and why halal certification is important, I believe there's no misunderstanding about it. What that come across everywhere is that halal certification will bring hustle to the industries and the fees and everything, but it is voluntarily so far. And if, again, the awareness about halal is about a good strategy and is about a good product, that we can cater not only Muslim needs and interests, but also the non-Muslim, I believe that this will be one of the biggest economic development to the country. Yeah. So back to the question, second question, Sister Ulfa, which is very interesting now in the digital era where we buy everything, almost anything easily through internet, online, TikTok, Shopee, Lazada, and things like that. I believe in Indonesia as well. This is worldwide trends nowadays. And you ask whether how do we in Malaysia look upon the aspect of halal, whether that product is halal and how to verify the status of the product. Yeah, this is another challenge. This is the cumbersome happen everywhere in the world to meet whether it is halal or not halal because the product they buy not only from their countries, but also all over the world. That is why one thing about halal in Malaysia, we have collaborate with other countries and recognized by 88 countries. So we also look into halal from Indonesia, the logo of halal, and collaborate halal with Singapore, with Brunei, a few other countries. There's more than 40 countries together with Malaysia that we also agree with the certification. If the certification is not from Malaysia but certified from Indonesia, we also accept that. For example, that's one thing. A second thing is that in order to verify whether it is halal or not, it's not only the agency can help, can assist, but also the individual customer must have this awareness to find out before they buy things online that they need to have this awareness and consciousness about halal. So halal intention is vital nowadays. Yeah, halal is the expectation to halal is very important, and therefore one of the program done by the government nowadays is to give halal awareness to the public. So whether you buy it online or offline, the idea is that you have the awareness to find halal product, halal foods. Yeah. So in Malaysia, we have that this app application named as Verify Halal. So they can scan through using their smartphone and see whether it is listed in halal jakim or not. Yeah, and they can always use any website and channels provided by the government. Yeah, through Facebook, through Instagram, through TikTok, for example. The Jakim, this agency has all these channels whereby the customer, the client, public can always ask through online as well, show to the authority, to the agency, whether this product is safe or halal or not. Yeah, so that is one way. But the most important is public awareness to find on their own. Ya, dulu misalnya ibu ya, kita waktu di luar negara, misalnya saya di England belajar, kita ada kesedaran dengan melihat kepada ingredients kan. Kita E31 lah, E ni E tu tak boleh lah, coklat ni dia ada E31, 32 lah, tak beli you know. At that time we don't have this online system where we can verify it online, yeah. So with many channels from various authorities, yeah, everywhere we go, we can always check. But the most important thing is your intention, your halal intention, and your halal awareness. Okay. Hope I answer to your question. The third question just now is about the authority. Our brother asked me about who organized and manage halal in Malaysia. Halal in Malaysia, we have authority in state level and we have authority in federal level. Yeah, in federal level, the central authority is government under the Prime Minister Office, which is Department of Islamic Development, Malaysia, called JAKIM. So in terms of producing and certified the halal logo, the authority is done by JAKIM. JAKIM will coordinate this for all industries, yeah, in Malaysia. But in order to inspect the product, the food in state level, each state has their own authority because each state the religious aspect is under the sultan and raja of each state, so anything to do with religious matter is under the state authority. But the JAKIM, the central one, is to coordinate and give awareness to all Malaysians in the country. But that is only in the aspect of halal certification. But in the other functions of halal, which is halal export, halal import, and things about economic activities is done by HDC, the government, the central government, which is Halal Development Corporation Berhad. This HDC, Halal Development Corporation, will look at these activities, the economic activities, how to promote the small medium industries on halal product, for example. It's not JAKIM. JAKIM is just to coordinate about halal certification and halal logo. So any complaint about halal certifications will be solved and catered by the JAKIM. Okay? So this might be different from Indonesia and how Indonesia coordinate the halal matters. Yeah. And final questions from Dr. I think I've answered all because Dr. Man, I didn't end questions to another speaker. I ask questions to our speaker from Tripoli University. Okay, that's all. Answer from me, Prof. Muslimin. Thank you so much, everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Sorry, there is a question about the process of certification of halal here in Indonesia from Majlis Ulama to the government officials. Now in the government, this is religious minister. What do you think in Malaysia? Is there or was there the same experience happen in Malaysia? Okay, Professor Sharifa?
Yes, in Malaysia, the authority, JAKIM is under the authority of religious minister in Malaysia. So JAKIM is under religious minister in Malaysia, but the aspect of halal is JAKIM authority, whereby JAKIM got their officers to inspect all the aspect regarding halal, not the Jawatan Kuasa Fatwa. Jawatan Kuasa Fatwa will give fatwa on other aspects, yeah, not on halal product. Because halal product, we have our own officers who qualified to inspect together with other ministry, for example, Ministry of Health, if it regards on um, health matters, perubatan, for example, ya, ubat-ubatan misalnya, maka in that situation, the JAKIM officer will collaborate with scientists, will collaborate with Ministry of Health, not with Jawatan Kuasa Fatwa. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your answer. Okay, now is for Dr. Salim Muhammad Al-Kushli, please.
نعم. أما بالسؤال للأخت المساواة بين المرأة بالناحية الاقتصادية. نعم. بالنسبة للمرأة في مجتمعاتنا كليبيا مثلا لها حقوق ولها تنال المساواة في هذا كما نص بالشريعة الإسلامية. أعطى الإسلام حقوقا للمرأة كاملة، وهي تشارك الرجل في جميع المجالات، في الطب والتدريس والمصارف، ولها دور كامل في ليبيا، مما هناك مؤسسات تضمن حقوقها وتعمل بشكل طبيعي في كل المجالات الاقتصادية والعلمية. موجودة المرأة في الجامعات، وموجودة في الطب، موجودة في كل التخصصات، ولها دور كبير في تمثيل المجتمع. أما السؤال الثاني بخصوص الدكتور عدنان، الاقتصاد الإسلامي كفي دول شمال أفريقيا خاصة، وفي دول أفريقيا والشرق الأوسط اقتصاد جديد، لأنها البنوك كانت تشتغل تحت النظام التقليدي الربوي التي اشتغلت به الدول الأفريقية خاصة من شمال أفريقيا، لأنها كانت مستعمرة من قبل دول الاتحاد الأوروبي فرنسا وإيطاليا، فكانت القوانين تخدم الربا ولا تخدم القانون الإسلامي. تغيرت المصارف من مراحل كما حدثت هناك جزئين، انفصلت المصارف التقليدية على المصارف الإسلامية، ولكن الإشكالية كان في الهرم. لنفترض مثلا بنك الجمهورية كان في الأصل ربوي، وانقسم جزء شرعي وجزء تقليدي. بعد فترة 2012 ميلادي توقفت الربا والحمد لله نهائيا في ليبيا. أما بالنسبة للعمل للبنوك الإسلامية فهي محدودة جدا في المرابحة وبعض المشاركات الخفيفة التي لا تعد لا تحصى كثيرا، لأنها ما زالت في طور البناء. حتى في الجامعات لم يكن لدينا قسم الاقتصاد الإسلامي، والآن أصبح موجود في بعض الجامعات، ووضعت قوانين لسن هذه الاقتصاديات. بالنسبة للمعوقات والتحديات كما نتحدث، هناك عدة تحديات، منها طبيعية ومنها اجتماعية ومنها مادية. لو صنفنا دول شمال أفريقيا بعضها نفطية وبعضها غير نفطية. الاقتصاد النفطي في الدول النفطية مثل ليبيا هو اقتصاد ريعي، وليس اقتصاد يعتمد على الربح والخسارة في مؤسسات مثل دولة تونس. نأتي للجزائر. الجزائر دولة نفطية، فلديها موارد اقتصادية فلا اقتصاد ريعي مثل اقتصاد ليبيا، أي بمعنى في الميزانيات يتحكم في بعض الموارد ويدعم بعض السلع مثل البنزين وبعض المواد الغذائية، فلذلك عندما يحدث عجز أو شطب يقوم بتسديده من الخزانة العامة من الدولة. هذه الاقتصاديات أدت إلى تدني مستوى الفرد في هذه الدول، مما يجعل الاقتصاد الإسلامي صعب تطبيقه من الناحية التطبيقية وليس من الناحية العملية. فنجد المعوقات الأخرى التي تعيق دول شمال أفريقيا، مثلا الهجرة. هناك هجرة غير شرعية إلى أوروبا بشكل يفوق العدد متضاعف، كل سنة يزيد. هذه الهجرة تسرب بعض عقول الشباب للعمل إلى أوروبا، فلذلك الكادر الوظيفي خلق بطالة في المجتمع. نجد هذه الاقتصاديات تسير وفق نمط معين للتحديات القائمة، كما كانت هذه التحديات تقوم بها بالمساعدة ببعض الدول لتصدي لهذه الوضعيات حتى ينمو الاقتصاد بشكل اقتصاد إسلامي في هذه المساحة، لأن الاقتصاد الإسلامي يوفر القيم الأخلاقية والتوازن والعدالة الاجتماعية. من هذا المنظور نجد أن هذه التحديات للمصارف فهي حديثة للتغيير من مرحلة إلى أخرى. كما أشرت أنت قلت كيف في دول أفريقية خاصة كان النظام الوضعي التقليدي معمول به إلى الآن في القوانين والمحاكم لفض النزاعات. لنفترض هناك شركات قامت بالمرابحة أو قامت بكذا فلديها خسائر، فعندما تقوم في المنازعات في المحاكم نجدها أنها ذهبت إلى القانون الوضعي وليس القانون الشرعي. فهذه العوائق هي مما تعيق الاقتصاد الإسلامي في دوران العجلة الاقتصادية. هذه الأسباب، هناك أسباب بيئية أخرى تؤدي إلى تدني الاقتصاد مثل التصحر ونقص المياه والبطالة وغيرها وبعض الأحكام والتشريعات. أما في المعمول به موجود البنوك الإسلامية، مثال على ذلك دولة تونس، هناك بنك الزيتونة، في ليبيا هناك شركة الصرافية الإسلامية، وهي في إطار البداية عمرها جديد، ونأمل إن شاء الله بإذن الله تعالى تكون لها مستقبل مثل دولة أندونيسيا وماليزيا في البنوك الإسلامية من فترة سابقة، ولهم خبرة في هذا المجال في المؤسسات الجامعية والدورات والندوات. وشكرا دكتور عدنان إن شاء الله.
Yes, okay, thank you very much for our two presenters, Professor Sharifa and Dr. Salim Muhammad Al-Kushli, because after this session, we want to have a closing ceremony. Is that? Pak dulu. Berarti offline juga? Masih ada offline? Oh yeah, okay. Offline and online. Okay, sorry. So we still have another session of parallel session, but for those who want to have city tour, because some people, especially for foreigners who want to have city tour, then the committee of Manado will provide a special car for 3 or 4 people, I think, including Professor Ismail, Dr. Ziegenhain, and Dr. Salim Al-Kushli. And the 4th is our Japanese college, Masna, Alsta, okay, sorry, I always forget, it is difficult for me to, to spell the name, sorry, yeah? And for the rest, I think we have short of break, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but unfortunately there are nothing to eat and nothing to drink. Okay, then thank you very much. And before we close our session, first of all, of course, we will give applause for Professor Sharifah from University of Malaya, and also applause for Dr. Muhammad Salim Al-Kushli. Because Professor Sharifah is not here, then we will send the certificate for you, Professor Sharifah, as our presenter. And for Professor and Dr. Salim Al-Kushli, we want to give you special certificate from the Vice Director, Professor Yusuf Rahman. Okay? We close our session by reciting Hamdalah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Please come forward and you receive special